Dear listeners, before we start today's story, big shout out to Travis Davis, aka Maliciouslogic37, for another amazing story. We have also started working on our other two channels, Lost Relation Chronicles and Fright Chronicles. Please show your love by subscribing to the channels and help us grow. The links are in the descriptions box. Now let's start with today's story. Simon Davis Jr. pushed his daughter Alice, age 23, out the doors of St. Jude's Mental Hospital as she was released. She was brought there when she attempted to end her life 3 years ago. Simon is still haunted by that day. He had forgotten something at home. When he entered, he saw the trail of water coming from the bathroom. Calling her name but not hearing anything, he broke it down. He is still haunted by the image of her semi-submerged body in the bathtub. But now, after years of therapy and treatment, she was finally coming home to her family who loved her. She was still so beautiful. Her angelic face and smile could warm and enchant the heart of anyone who gazed upon it. Her once long blonde hair now cut, her sky blue eyes although have life in them, they no longer had the beautiful radiance they once had. She was still beautiful, of course, her slender build standing at 5 feet 5 inches. But her true beauty was her heart and character, like her mother. Both women had a kindness and caring nature that could warm the souls of the coldest and lost. She would help anyone in need and be there for them when needed. She even took time to help homeless at shelters for Thanksgiving and other functions, a stark contrast from Simon. Simon at age 44 stood at 6 feet 3 inches, a strong, muscular, and lean build, African-American with a bald head and tattoos covering both arms, as well as one of a compass on his right hand, and another of a bald eagle holding an olive brand on its right claw and a double-bladed sword on its other on his left. Despite these things, she was always his daughter despite not being of the same blood. She was his daughter the moment he fell in love with her mother, Shannon. They meet years ago after he left the army. It was really by accident in a laundromat. Alice accidentally bumped into him as he was changing his load, and his laundry detergent fell on her little head by accident. "I'm so sorry, mister." He smiled at her innocent smile. Then her mother came. Her angelic and apologetic face came to his view. The moment they saw each other, it was love at first sight. Eventually they spoke and exchanged numbers, recognizing the chemistry. He remembers as Alice, despite only being 10 at the time, became a matchmaker for the two. Shannon and Alice have been on their own since they ran away from her abusive father, Derek McIntyre. He would physically abuse Shannon on a regular basis, at times nearly killing her. One night, after severely beating Shannon, a young Alice threw a cup at her dad from behind. He turned to face the terrified little, and with fist clenched he made his way towards Alice. Shannon saw this. "No," she spoke in a barely audible voice, and with renewed strength took the kitchen knife and charged at him, stabbing him to death. She was never charged due to self-defense in both testimonies, and she left that small town and never looked back. It was always her and her daughter until then, and now there was this man. She could not explain it at the time, but she saw something about him that not only she, but her daughter would be safe around him. As time passed, her and even Alice's love for him only grew. Simon and Shannon would go on dates, but eventually bring Alice along for family night. He fell in love with the little girl that brought him and the love of his life together. 2 years had passed. They had moved in together. Simon bought a house with 3 bedrooms. So many happy memories were in that home. Some bad ones too, but in the end, the love of the family only grew, and the good always outweighed the bad. He would be there for Alice in her middle school years and her mother when she discovered she could no longer have children due to Derek's abuse. Shannon cried hard that afternoon, not just because of the news, but because she was going to lose the man she and her daughter loved so much. When she told Simon, she expected him to leave. A man like him would want to have a family, not a broken woman who can't have kids. She was shocked not just when he professed his love for her and swore to never leave her no matter what, but proposed to her that moment. "You and Alice are my family, and I will love and protect you both." Alice had just come back from school and saw the scene. At that moment, her 13-year-old body just up and down screaming to her mother. "Say yes, say yes." Shannon tearfully kissed him with a smile and said yes. Simon married Shannon. He adopted Alice and loved her with all her being as if she were her own. The wedding was beautiful. Despite Simon and Shannon not having any relative, friends and co-workers made up for it. A teacher at Alice's school, who was like a father figure for Shannon, walked her down the aisle to give her away. They were a family, and he loved them with every fiber of his being as they loved him. He was their Alice when she made honor roll in grade 6 and up. The science projects were their favorite time to spend together. He was there for Shannon when she was praised and promoted at the bank. He even taught her and Alice to defend themselves against bullies. He beamed with pride when she broke a girl's nose when she and her friends jumped her in the school parking lot. The parents wanted to press charges, but Simon convinced them otherwise, and they just dropped it. He and Shannon were so proud of her when she graduated with full honors. Their little girl grew up. Everything was fine, until it wasn't. He thought back to what brought him here to now, as he pushed his daughter to the front of the building with the nurse, and the things he intends to do. "Dad, are you all right? You looked a bit off." He turned and gave Alice his signature reassuring smile, a smile that told whenever you saw it, "Everything will be all right. I'm fine, baby. I just have a project I'm working on. Please don't worry. Your mom couldn't make it this one time, even though she and I never stopped seeing you these past 3 years. She's making up for it by making your favorite dish, fried cod with mac and cheese. You sure I didn't kick the bucket and make it to heaven?" Simon lightly laughed at the joke. His heart warmed as he heard his daughter joke. It was so long since he'd seen her smile, let alone joke and laugh. His baby girl was coming back. Therapy was hard for the family, but now he was seeing the results. "No, you're stuck down here with the rest of us a little longer, I'm afraid." They made it home, and Shannon greeted her daughter in a warm but tight hug. "Welcome home, baby." "Thank you, Mom. It's good to be home." Her mother, her angelic face still beautiful, her enchanting smile and sky-blue eyes, her slender body, her shoulder-length blonde hair would bring most models to shame. At age 41, she could still look like she was in her late 20s. The family had their reunion and celebrated with their meal and memories they made. When it was over, Alice was making her way upstairs when she saw a picture. It was a family photo in a park, Simon holding Shannon next to him, her smile so evident and beautiful. Alice, sitting beneath them, sticking her lounge out to the camera, and another man next to her with an exaggerated smirk sitting next to her. Alice stood frozen for a moment. Her mom noticed and spoke. "Oh, baby, I'm so sorry for leaving that up. I should have moved it, but I was so excited when you came home." "Mom, it's okay. We should leave it up. It was a beautiful day that day. I'll always cherish it in my heart." Her mom looked at her. "Oh, baby," and hugged her. "I love you guys. I'm going to get some sleep, okay?" Simon hugged Alice and Shannon goodnight. "I'm going to get some work done on my project. I should be back by morning. I think someone missed some blueberry pancakes while they were away." Alice beamed. "Oh my God, Dad, thank you so much." "Hey, chill. I didn't make them yet, huh? I'll see my beautiful ladies in the morning." With that, he kissed them both and made his way out. After serving in the army, Simon had a lot of skills. He was obsessed with knowledge in the medical field. In fact, could be a surgeon general if he wanted, but instead got work from one of his war buddies as an underground doctor and integrator for an outfit. If there was someone who needed to be patched up, get information from someone by any means, or makes them disappear, he was the guy to go to. He came to the job by accident when his friend Todd Featherstone came to his door bloody. Alice was in summer camp at the time, and Shannon and him were watching a movie when they heard the knock. That night would change them forever. All three were involved with the actions of Todd and had to be there for each other to see the next day. When it was over, the men who set up Todd were dead due to Shannon and Simon's help, their love for each other even stronger. And Todd became the new boss of the outfit, bringing it to even newer height of power and influence. He offered Simon. They had their hands ranging from extortion of street gangs, weapons trafficking, fraud, cybercrimes, drugs such as weed and pharmaceutical, and if it called for it, murder. However, they had a code. They would not do certain crimes, such as anything involving children of human trafficking. In fact, many organizations were destroyed for trying to bring that to their territory. Todd was the boss of the organization. He was known as the Ghost, due to no one with few exceptions knowing who he is, or if he even exists yet, was in control of it all. Simon, his friend, would be his number two, but known as the Professor, due to his knowledge in the medical field, but also his intellect, combat skill, ability of breaking bones by force, if need be. He would study and research anyone like an obsession and track them down. By the time he found them, he would know more about the person he was looking for than they would know about themselves. Shannon, with the events of that night, grew even closer to Simon. They fought for and protected each other from people who would kill their family if it came to it. She only asked that the work not be brought home, and if there was something that haunted him, to let her in, vowing to take whatever secrets he gave her to the grave. Simon arrived at his destination in an hour. The building was in the middle of a forest. The property bought and paid for, going for 5 miles far and wide in total. It is here associates for the outfit would receive medical attention to keep their names off books for law enforcement, or to get information out of someone by any means, or get rid of bodies, intentionally surrounded by tress and leaves to obscure it from being seen. It was 3 miles away from any road or highway, and nothing less of military satellites could find it. Even then, it was close to impossible. The building was 5 stories tall and wide enough for a football field. It was how he made the main source of income. Simon left his car, a black 2024 Dodge Challenger. He greeted the man at the entrance. Evening document. I heard Alice is home. I hope she's well. Marcus stood at 5 feet 9 inches, a lean build. His pale skin and shaved head made him look like death, although based on the number of men he killed, that wouldn't be far off. But he was always loyal to Simon since he saved his life in a shipment deal gone bad. He would prove to be one of the best and loyal soldiers of the outfit. Thank you, Marcus. I appreciate that. But remind you, I would like that world away from us for now. How is the patient? Marcus gathered himself. Sorry, Doc, you're right. The patient is awake now. He's been looking at the scars you gave him. Looks like his leg and arm are fully healed. The PT you forced him into worked like you wanted. Of course, most people will do anything you put a gun to their head. Marcus and Simon gave a slight chuckle and gave Marcus a plate. His wife made this for Alice's return. Figure it's been a while since you ate. Thanks for everything, Marcus. Paul and Zero should be here in 30. Tell Lou we got more for him, and switch off so you can eat. Marcus beamed at the plate. Fired catfish, mac and cheese, chicken wings, and broccoli and cheese. You are a life savior, Doc, thanks. With that, Simon made his way inside to his office and brought up the feed to the patient's room. Carter Harrison was on his bed rubbing his left leg and right arm. He was shaved and in his paper tear-away pants, used by most hospitals. Carter has been here for over 3 months because Simon kidnapped him in a garage parking lot. Carter was trying to get away after nearly getting killed by a priest, Father Mac McClanahan, whose wife, Colina Really McClanahan, he was having an affair with. He would mock Mac's priesthood by telling him in confession his affair with a married woman and the graphic details of what he did to her, and she allowed him to do, all without telling him it was his own wife. He laughed and mocked the priest, unaware that he had made him a cuck and his wife's toy. When the priest discovered what happened, he surprised Carter by shooting a .50 caliber bullet through his chair. Eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. Terrified, he tried to leave town, but had to get his money, stashed away in a car at a private garage. When he was there, he was taken. When Carter came to his senses, he saw he was in a room that looked like an eerily clean and spotless hospital room. A clock that was encased in glass with a digital calendar attached to it. He also saw that the suit he was wearing was gone. Instead, he was wearing tear-away blue paper pants. There was a twin-size bed, and the room had a lot of room to be a hospital. Before he understood what was happening, Simon had come into the room. He was wearing black steel toe boots, black jeans, a black long-sleeve shirt, black leather gloves, and a black cover see-through mask. Carter demanded what was going on, only to be backhanded. When he retaliated with a wide punch with his right, Simon dodged it with ease, then grabbed his exposed arm and grabbed it, then quickly stuck the arm inward and out of place. As Carter screamed in pain, Simon then kicked in his shin bone of Carter's left leg, causing him to crumple into the floor. Carter was helpless, as Simon, with seemingly superhuman strength, picked him up and strapped him down the bed. Carter then saw a projector on a big screen. It was that of an old woman, perhaps in her early 60s. She had a sad look drawn on her face. Then she spoke of her daughter. Rebecca was such a beautiful soul. She could light the room with her loving smile alone, but it was her soul and kindness that made you fall in love with her. It was like you could be so mad at something, but then just by being around her you're too busy laughing and feeling joyous that you forgot why you were made in the first place. She was like that since she was a child. Just always wanted to fix the world, help people. No shocker she wanted to follow in her father's footsteps and become a doctor. The day she walked across that stage, she made us so proud. It was only a matter of time she meets Sean. Sean was such a sweet boy. They loved each other so much. Then one day everything changes. They went to a function for hospital staff when they meet Carter Harrison. Just had something about him that I didn't like. Sean saw it too. He was a guest from a neighboring hospital coordinator to my understanding. He always had a project that involved Rebecca. More and more she had to cancel plans because of Carter. And Sean or us couldn't understand. We soon found out why. 7 months later, Sean found her text and discovered she was having an affair. They had only been married for 7 years, loved each other, but it was going on for 7 months. Those late-night projects and occasional day meeting were times they would have sex. At first, there were no signs he built her trust, built on the attraction. Then when her guard was down, kissed her, made out, and the rest is history. When Sean found out about it, he was devastated. I don't think I seen anyone so broken. Finding out the woman you loved who you thought loved you only tolerated you for someone who treats her like a doormat. And that the other thing, he was so cruel to Rebecca, but she enjoyed it anyway. When Sean left her, Rebecca was destroyed. She begged that man's forgiveness, but none came. He left her. She soon became a narcotic addict. Met at her job started to disappear until they found out it was her who was using it. She then lost her medical license. Eventually, she was evicted. She stayed with us and offered her help, and for a while it helped. Then one day I came home and saw her in bed. It was 4 p.m. I tried to wake her, but she didn't respond. You must understand, I only saw her from behind. I shook her and then saw her face, and a syringe in her arm. Her eyes were no longer alive. My baby was gone. I tried everything I could to bring her back. CPR, called 911. None of it brought her back. I had to tell her father what happened, and we both just collapsed together. Broken, complete broken. Sean came for the funeral and was so sad. He blamed himself for what happened. He ended up dying due to cancer in just a year, but I think it was a broken heart. We buried them next to each other in the same church cemetery they were married in. The video stopped. Suddenly Simon grabbed the left leg and slowly and cruelly locked it back in place. Carter's screams could be heard through the room, but no further, no matter how loud he was. Every room on every floor was insulated for this purpose. Some could be on the other side of the room and not hear a thing. He cursed at Simon for the pain he caused, demanding to know why he is doing this. But Simon did not answer. Carter looked in pure terror when he saw the drill gun and the bit attached to it, and screamed in ungodly agony when he drilled the bit into his leg to connect the broken bones, as he did with the right arm as well. Carter could not move due to the straps and Simon's ungodly strength. Simon wanted Carter to suffer and leave him scars like he did so many others. He knew Carter only cared about himself, not the lives he destroyed. So, Simon wanted him to have his own scars. He would show him the lives he destroyed. So, every time he looked at his scar, he would be reminded of the video of the life he destroyed that resulted in his scar. Simon recalls the movie as he changes his clothes. Removing them from the same bag, he will burn them in when he is done and makes his way to Carter's room. Carter rubs his scar on his leg and arm, his thoughts still reeling of how he got into this place months ago. Why the hell did this sick scum sucker do this to me? Because of some 304 I screwed years ago. So what? I don't deserve this. Get me out of here, damn it. I know you hear me, you. The door opens before he can say anything else. The large man in front of him looks like a monster to him, and he is not far off from that claim. Carter takes up in courage or pride he has left and charges the man. Carter is more focused with his punches now and takes a strong cross to the man, only for the man to duck and hit him with a strong body shot to Carter's right rib. Carter falls in pain and is immediately kicked in the face, knocking him out. Carter thinks that these past months were the worst of this horror. Little does he knows that this is far from over. For there is a reason Simon took all this time in planning for Carter. Because Carter is the reason that Alice was in the mental hospital these past 3 years. Not just because of what he did to her, but also her husband, Jason. It has been 3 months since Father's Mac's world ended. It was the day he found out that his wife, his best friend, the love of his life, the woman who saved him from the darkness after he came home from the war zone of the Middle East when he lost his friend, the wife who had done all these things for him and more, had an affair. Not just any affair, and not just with anyone, but an egotistical, narcissistic scum sucker who took pleasure in causing others pain and heartache because of the simple fact that he could, and then had the gall to rub his face in it without even knowing it was his wife he was talking about. When he found out the truth, he wanted to kill that man. No, he was anything but a man to be so vindictive and cruel. It wasn't just the affair. It was the lying, the secrets, the fact that not only did his wife Colina gave her body willingly to that man, but did things with him she never even thought of doing with Mac. Was it me? Did I do something wrong? Did I scare her? Or was I pitted by her? These questions and more he asked himself. When he had the chance to kill Carter, something kept him from doing so. He can still feel the weight of the rifle on his shoulder as he positioned himself to take aim. He saw Carter walk into the building like he owned the place. He made his way across the city and had him in his sight from the building window. He could have killed him multiple times, but something stopped him from pulling that trigger every time. Eventually, he waited for him to leave the building before he shot his office chair out of frustration. He then gave the shell casing and scripture to an employee gift-wrapped. He heard about the Carter left like a coward begging for his life. He admitted chuckling to that a little, but it didn't change the fact that his marriage was now over. When she confessed to him, he remembered how numb he felt towards her. He still loved her, and he hated himself for doing so. The divorce papers were still in the desk drawer of his home office, but he could not be with her, now or ever. When it was over, he spent many a night crying. The memories he shared with her, as well as the love he built with her, all gone for what? A cheap thrill of excitement? It doesn't matter what done is done. Now he had to heal. He realized this brought back a lot of anger in him. So, he decided to go to a mixed martial arts gym and retrain himself in combat. This wasn't for revenge, but for channeling his anger and doing something with it rather than let it build and kill someone. He also went to what his calling was, his faith. His faith was truly challenged. However, despite that, after his friend and CEO of the company he assisted on occasion told of the mysterious woman who slowed him down from killing Carter and the times when he had Carter in his sights, but something kept him from pulling the trigger, he found his reserve and held on to his faith. He realized that it may have been Colina that brought him to God, but it was God's love that kept him on this path. Mac had just finished another service today. This one dealt with overcoming loss and pain. He used scripture such as John 16 verse 33, as well as Corinthians 1:3-4, and others, all to speak on overcoming what hurts us and causes us pain, and the importance of not only overcoming pain, but to not let that pain define you. The congregation was aware of what happened with him and his wife, but did not know the details, only that she left him, and it wasn't for them to know. Although he and his wife were no longer together, he did not want to soil her name. There was no benefit for it to him, other than to be petty, and to truly heal, the last thing he wanted to do was be petty. He also got more into community programs and activities that helped the people who lived here. He helped organizations that assisted and fought for at-risk youth. Some of the employees and associates of the programs were ex-cons, some of which he peached to in the state prison. Others were members of law enforcement. Both parties were people who seen what the worst of humanity can do to their community, but wanted to help heal and rebuild what was destroyed. He realized that by helping others, he can heal from his own grief, rather than soak in it. And for the first time in months, he felt like he was where he belonged. As he was cleaning the church from service member, a woman approached him. She was of Puerto Rico descent, at 5 feet 5 inches. A healthy, decent body. Her black shoulder-length hair straightens and free. Jasmine Costello was 23 years old, and had just began working as a social worker for the city. She meets Father Mac where he began working with at-risk youth programs organizations. She saw firsthand how his words, heart, and actions can move others. Yet he never let it go to his head. He was among the most kind and humble men she had ever met, and has nothing but the utmost respect for him. Father McClanahan. Hello, how are you? Service was excellent today. I really needed to hear that, thank you. Father Mac simply smiled. I'm glad you enjoyed it. I think we all needed it today. Every day God sends us struggles. We make the mistake of thinking they are to weaken us. But in His infinite wisdom, they are to actually make us stronger. For example, we both go to the same gym, Jasmine, where you work out and you feel the pain of your muscle, you feel like you're going to die. But instead, you keep going. Why? Because through that pain comes strength. Your muscles build up stronger. Your blood flow moves better. Your stamina lasts longer. It is no different than life. When it hits us so hard we want to quit, but instead we keep going, it makes us stronger as a result. That does not kill us, only makes us stronger. Do you understand, Jasmine? Jasmine Costello did her best to hide the fact she was flushed by the priest. He was among the youngest and most attractive in the city. At age 30, standing at 5 feet 9 inches with the lean, sculpted body of a professional boxer with the skills to match. Many a time she would be memorized by its perfect and beautiful sculptured layout. She has seen him herself at the gym, seeing what he is capable of. He would lift weights on moment, then drop sparring partners the next, all while holding restraint and checking on those he hit, making sure he was okay. A warrior and an angel in one. Jasmine, are you all right? Her beautiful Puerto Rican face snapped back to reality. Her brown eyes blink. Oh yes, I apologize, Father. Your message was inspiring as always. I wanted to talk to you about the boarding school, Promised Land. I don't know how, but you managed to get $1 million for the project so far. The school will have some of the best teachers in the country. We have 100 so far who are interested, each with immaculate records of childcare and education. The property will be in a rural area, not far from a city, town, or emergency service. Infect its own medical staff to treat injuries or ailments until an ambulance arrives. The best state-of-the-art school equipment for grades pre-K to 12. We can even get apprenticeship programs based on the deal we make with some local universities and trade schools based on their merit and skills. Think about it. Doctors, engineers, mechanics, law enforcement, military, welders, Linemen. Mac, these kids can get a chance and then some with this. A smile came to Mac's face. Mac, you brought us here. Thank you. No, Jasmine, we brought us here. You are as much a reason this came to be as much as anyone who put into this. Thank you, Jasmine. Jasmine blushed before she continued. Just doing my part is all, Mac. Oh, also we may be doing good, but with what we are asking we are still maybe $500,000 short of our goal. That along with the grant the government may allow, if we can make that mark, we should be good by the end of this winter. Good work, Jasmine. I think we should. Suddenly both heard a noise come from upper bleachers. Father Mac went first, while Jasmine went up the stairs behind him. It sounded like snoring. Reaching the source, they saw a little boy, no older than 9. He was asleep. He was Caucasian, wearing a beat-up black hoodie, worn blue jeans, and tennis shoes that looked like they'd been worn through. They also saw what looked like spaghetti stains on his dirty undershirt. We did have that spaghetti dinner last night for the homeless. He must have stayed over, Jasmine said as she stood next to the priest. A look of concern covered their eyes. Going to have to wake him up and find out how he got here. Ask where his parent is. Maybe his father. With those words, the boy jumped up in duress, terrified of the mention of his name. No, please, don't call him. I'm sorry, I was just hungry. I'll pay you back, I promise, please. Seeing the seer terror in the boy's eye, Mac knew 2 things. One, this boy was going to be safe no matter what it takes. And the second, he was going to find out why this boy acted the way he did by having a personal conversation with the boy's father himself. Colina had just finished her therapy session with Dr. Janet Stevens. Every session she goes to feels like it is draining her mind, body, and soul. Yet she still goes, not because she must, otherwise she'll get kicked out by her sister, but because she must find out why she did what she did, betraying the man she loved for some scumsucker who knew what buttons to push and make her to his will. She still struggles with it, thinking to herself all the time, how did I let this happen? How could I do that to Mac? I let that scumbag do all those things to me. I let him. That was the worst of it. He did not force her into his hotel room. He simply told her to meet him there. He did not force her to screw her. He simply told her to, and she allowed him to do so. She remembered how he mocked and degraded her. His words were still echoing in her head. You're nothing but a 304, aren't you? Looking high and mighty just to hide the fact that you're a 304, pure and simple. And to top it off, she enjoyed it. That's what really disturbed her. She recalled when she felt guilty on that ride home, wondering what to tell her husband, only to decide to hide it from him and never do anything like that with Carter again. But she did not stop seeing him. Instead, she called him a week later, needing to see him again. She recalls his cruel laugh mocking her and the words he said. I told you were just a 304. For the next few weeks, she let him have her. She loved it. The sex was amazing. And then there was the resort that Carter set up for them. He told her to lie to her husband so that he could screw her all weekend. And to her shame, she did. Told him she was seeing her sister. And the things Carter did to her, she enjoyed every second of it. The things she did she would never do with Mac. But she did things that would be seen in most sleazy adult films. But it wasn't supposed to be with him, a man who had no respect for her, but with Mac, the man that loved her with all his heart. Mac was such a good and sensual lover. There was nothing he couldn't do to please her, and yet she did what she did, and she hated herself for it. She remembered when she saw Mac after he found out. The rifle was still harnessed on his shoulder. She asked if he killed Carter for what he did, and he told her no. Thinking back on it now, Mac seemed so calm, but it was most likely he was just exhausted from it all. The fact he was a cuck, betrayal by the woman he loved, the lies and disrespect, just exhausted. Still, she could see his heart break in front of her. He didn't show it, but he was in pure anguish, and it was all her fault. When he told her to leave, she broke down. Everything she had with him was gone, and she had no one to blame but herself. Her decision and action brought these consequences to foliation. She recalled when she came to her sister and told her everything. Then when her older sister slapped her and cursed her. What the hell is wrong with you? How could you do that to Mac? You screw over the man who is there for you, respects you, always there for you when you need him. The actual type of men that women would kill for, who I wanted but passed up because he loved you, who sacrificed countless time for you, who loves you for every fiber of his being. For a scumsucker who treats you like dirt and just wants to get his, but you just get off by chance because he has freaky sex with you? You didn't think that your husband should have been the one you could talk to about this, to go through this experience with, to share this with, before you screwed that piece of shit? And the fact that you let him talk you into going to that resort and use me to lie to your husband and one of the few people I call friend, You ever consider how that would make me feel? That every time my friend thinks of me now, he'll be reminded that I was used as a cover to screw some jerk who somehow screwed my baby sister. The same friend who saved my life while I was overseas. Did you? Kalina couldn't say anything. Everything she said was true. All of it. She thought the truth and casualty of what she had done hit her when she saw Mac after he found out. But hearing someone who loved her and who she loved be so brutally honest, so raw, this was intense, and she felt that intensity. She knew she deserved every word, every accusation, and there was no excuse for what she had done. Tears fell from her eyes, but she was too tired to sob in hysterics. Her sister stepped outside and smoked on the deck, while Kalina just sat on the couch. 2 hours later, she came back inside, a determined look in her eyes. She sat next to Kalina and spoke. Kalina, my baby sister, I love you. Believe it or not, I do. I know I seem harsh, but it's to be honest with you. I tell you things that you need to hear, not what you want to hear. Because the things you need to hear help you. You need help, professional. Kalina shook her head. The idea of having to talk to someone was humiliating. They would judge her and find out through graphic detail what she had done. Not to mention must eventually relive memories that she wanted buried. She was about to speak up when her sister stopped her by raising her hand. If you want to stay here, that is non-negotiable. Kalina, what you did to Mac, to you it's not normal. You destroyed your marriage because of it. You're gaining weight, you're miserable. You mop from here to work with a look of despair in your eyes. This must stop. At one point you must know why you did what you did. Not excusing anything, but at least confront whatever demons you have in you that put you on this path. So, here's how it's going to be. You either bite the bullet or face those demons inside you by getting the genuine help you need. Or you can walk out right now. Because Kalina saw the tears from her sister's eyes. I will not see you destroy yourself. Because I can't. I love you too much to see you be something you are not. Kalina broke at her sister's words. She was right. She can't keep running away. It was because she ran away from the truth she is here now. She could have told Mac when the affair first happened at the hotel. He may have still left her, but he may have still respected her. He may have even given her a chance and sought therapy. Or even better, have enough confidence and self-respect to tell Carter to shove off and make a complaint about him and fight him tooth and nail in court if need be. Mac would have been by her side, and she knew it. I'll do it, you're absolute right, I'll do it. I need help, sis. Please don't leave me. The sisters hugged in a strong, tearful embrace. Good job making that first step, baby sis. You did good. Let's get to work. Her sister told Kalina how the appointments would be 3 times a week for the next year. Everything would be paid for. The doctor was well known and influential in her profession. That there is something in her she must confront. Kalina finally took this with determination. She knew she was going to face demons and scars in her past she wanted buried, but also to be free of them. When she first meets her doctor, she was surprised by her demons. She didn't wear the typical outfit one would expect. She wore blue jeans, a slightly tight long-sleeve black shirt, and her raven short-cut hair. Her sky-blue eyes covered by her prescription glasses. Hello, Mrs. McClanahan. My name is Dr. Janet Stevens. The introduction was a word at first, but as time went on, she saw how the doctor may have been harsh and direct. But there was also compassion and sympathy, a sense of humanity and finding faults and finding out how to fix and mend them, not just judge and discard. A bond was eventually built from their early session. The first month of sessions were mostly Kalina confessing what may have led to this point. From meeting and eventually marry Mac and what attracted her to him, to the affair sharing every graphic detail, to the eventual destruction of her marriage. She shared it all, and Dr. Stevens absorbed it, writing all down, but offering the occasional advice while listening. It was during the second month that the doctor noticed something different. Doctor spoke. We are going to stop for now, Kalina. That was a very big step. I'm proud of you and thank you for sharing that with me. I want you to write down a list of words for me. This list is how you feel when we discuss this topic, including the part we have yet to talk about, and bring that list with you. Remember, just words, no matter how many or how few. We are going to go deeper into why you responded the way you did. You acknowledge all the wrongs you brought and hold yourself accountable. You may not think fondly of Carter, and I don't blame you. But not one time did you say he forced you. You made the decision to do what you did. I believe, based on what we talked about these past months, he is merely the icing on a truly damaged cake. He is only a small piece, or even an associate of your trauma, rather than a part of it. And we will bring that up in our next session. With that, Dr. Stevens hugged Kalina and walked her out. I think you should consider bringing your sister with you next time. She is a strong support system, and this is important for you both to share. Kalina was brought there by her sister each day. Many were emotionally, she had to be held accountable and reminded that everything that happened was on her. But the purpose was to find the reason she chooses this route and face it, so it no longer had a hold on her. Her thoughts of that week months ago fade when she must go to the bathroom. She barely makes it to the public restroom when she throws up again. Her sister is there when she steps out. Geez, maybe we should get you checked out. You've been doing that a lot lately. Maybe we should see a doctor. Kalina recovered before she spoke. It's probably just a bug, but a visit to the doctor shouldn't hurt. Her sister noticed how Kalina looked at her. I talked about Uncle Jesse's barbecue. Her sister was taken aback. Kalina, you talked about that day? Kalina nodded her head. You told me I must face my demons. It took me 3 months of 3-day-a-week session to get to this point. I'm still a reek, but I'm not running anymore. It was at that moment Kalina told her sister to pull over so she could throw up again. When Kalina was finished, her sister spoke up. Yeah, we are going to the doctor later. Carter awoke in the room strapped to a chair. How the hell did I get in this? Then he recalled when he tried to attack the man in black and failed miserable, and saw the shiner in the mirror on the ceiling above him. Great, just what I needed. He then was suddenly pushed up by the mattress. Somehow it moved so that while being strapped, it made him face the wall instead of the ceiling as it was before. Then as before, he saw a projection screen turn on. What the hell is this? A marathon of a jacked up version of It's a Wonderful Life? I don't care about these people, you hear me. They were just all 304s anyway. So, spare me the trips down memory lane of my conquest. Suddenly he saw a young girl in the video, no older than 12. She had a sad look on her face. Carter spoke up. What the hell is this? He was struck by an unseen hand. He didn't even see the man in back walk in. Was he here the whole time? Carter thought to himself, but put his attention back to the girl. My parents, they were the type you would see in a movie, romance comedy. My dad uses to joke how he meets my mom because of tomatoes. He wanted a sandwich, and all the stores were closed, so he drove 30 minutes to a farmer's market and met my mom at the cash registers. He was in shock how beautiful she was. Fire red hair, green eyes, slender body, and a smile that you enchant you in any spell. He told her the cheesiest line I ever heard. Did it hurt when you fell from heaven? Ha, ha. It was so stupid that mom couldn't help but fall for him and his humor. Yeah, my dad could make even the saddest person laugh till his ribs hurt. They fell in love with each other instantly that day. They dated for a year, then got married and had me soon after. My parents were so happy to have me. They reminded me every chance they had, and I love them for it. Dad was a guidance counselor. Kids always went to him for advice, or if they needed someone to talk to when nobody cared. Mom also worked with youth. She helped more than a few kids escape abusive home, and even helped new teen mom with advice and support group when everyone else, including some of their own family, judged and ostracized them. Yeah, they were something. And then it all changed. Of course, it was my 11th birthday. Didn't know it at the time, but mom was out a lot by herself the past months. I remember my birthday was coming up the next day and plans were made. When mom said she had to leave, it would only take a minute. Dad and mom argued, like really argued. Then dad said something. You got to see your boss Carter again? Are you kidding me right now? Bad enough he takes you on business trip to sell you product this past year on a regular basis, putting us on the back burner for so many times we are supposed to be a family. But not of all days you let him do it at our own home? Mom then yelled back, don't give me that crap. It's because of my product that we have a roof over our head. How can you be so ungrateful? I will be back in a few hours. At least someone knows how to appreciate me. Not sure what happened, but ever since mom met with that Carter guy who was interested in promoting her product, she changed. She wasn't warm and loving anymore. Even would disrespect dad in front of everyone. I came downstairs at 11 p.m. It was a weekend. I heard dad crying in the living room and his phone was out. The screen was on. I didn't know it at the time, but dad hired a private eye and had her followed. That phone was filled with pictures and videos of mom with that Carter guy. They'd been having an affair for 5 months. Around the time we noticed mom change, my family was changing and I didn't know why. Mom left after that. She came back the next morning. Dad met her at the door. He told her they needed to talk. When mom brushed him off, when she did, he brought the phone to her face. 5 months, he told her in a harsh voice. At first, she was shocked, but then smiled. I'll never forget what happened next. I was in my pajamas on the top of the stairs. They didn't see me as I made my way down. She told him, maybe if you knew what you were doing in bed, I wouldn't have to find a real man to please me, you loser. Go ahead and divorce me. I'll take our daughter away, and you'll never see her again. You hear me, you pathetic excuse of a man. You understand you." Before she said another word, my dad grabbed her neck and choked her. He then took the knife and stabbed her. The look my mom had was shock then horror. When it was over, she was dead. My father was sentenced to life in prison. I've been living with my aunt and uncle ever since." Tears fell from her eyes as she continued. "I don't understand. Why did this happen? We were a loving family and were there for each other. And all because some jerk had to get what he wanted. I'm an orphan. I miss my dad's jokes when I'm sad. I miss my mom's loving smile when I feel like nothing. Now that's all I have left. Nothing. I can't even see my dad until I'm 18. And to be honest, I'm not sure I can. Do you know what it's like being confused, that you love and hate your parents at the same time? And it's a torture every time you think about it. Which for me is all the time. And want them there, but you can't because they are gone?" The girl cried on, then the video ended. Carter didn't say a word, and for the first time fought back tear. "I didn't want to hurt the kid, okay?" As soon as he said that, he was struck hard in the face. He then looked at the man and saw he was holding something. Pillars? What the? Before he could finish, the pillars were brought to his mouth, and to his shock and horror, his first front tooth was slowly and methodically pulled out. His whole set of both lower and upper front teeth would be pulled out before the sun came up. Carter was a hovering mess of pain and anguish. Carter was crying, which is not unusual given that what he just went through. But this was the first time Carter cried for something other than himself. He cried for the girl whose life he ruined. He then was hosed down, then forced to take the mouth gaze into his mouth. Coated with antibiotics, nothing to prevent pain was used. He was then unstrapped and left alone. He would be given a new set of teeth later in the day. Simon left the building, greeting the men outside. "Our patient is done for now, but he'll be eating soup for a while. Make sure he gets it. I'll be back tonight. For now, I'm going." As Simon made his way home, he thought back to what brought him to this, where his animosity for this man came from, how he came to this point, and why Carter Harrison is being tortured as he is in a building in the middle of nowhere. He knew exactly why, of course. He felt it every time he saw that man. He could say it was for his baby girl, and he wouldn't be wrong if he did, but it wasn't the whole truth. He also did it for a boy that he loved as if he were his own son. He did it for a boy who had the kindest yet strongest spirit, who would fight for what he believed in yet offer his coat to keep someone cold. That boy would soon grow to be his son-in-law, and he was the only man, besides his dying father, he ever cried for. Alex St. James was born to an abusive father and neglectful alcoholic mother. Each day they reminded him how much they never wanted him but were stuck with him. On the outside, they looked like a normal family, but inside those walls it was hell. His father would beat him up to the point he would make him wear long-sleeve shirts in the summer to hide bruises. The kids in the neighborhood called him weird and would tease him, and as a result he got into a lot of fights. All the kids were either mean or wanted nothing to do with them, all except a young 7-year-old girl who just moved here with her mom. She approached him in his lone corner of the park. "Hello, my name is Alice. What's your name?" "Brian. My name is Brian. My mom got me this cool new game. She said I could play it with someone if I can. Want to play?" Brian was confused. Most kids either fought or teased him, but this girl wanted to play with him. "Yeah, we could play. I'd like to." One of the kids saw this and formed a crowd of kids. "Oh, don't tell me you're going to play it with this loser, Alice." The other kids laughed. Brian got mad and was about to fight the kid when Alice spoke up. "The only loser I see is you, fat tub of lard." All the kids suddenly laughed even harder at the fat boy, making him cry and run away. Brian thought to himself, "I like this girl." And they were friends since. Simon smiled at the memory when he was told how they first meet. They were inseparable by the time he came into the picture. He remembers seeing the kid stand in front of Alice when they first met him, as if he were protecting her. Simon laughed a little but respected Brian. He would never hurt Alice, loved her like his own daughter, but he liked the face the kid was willing to stand up to a grown man with muscles and tattoos to protect his friend. Eventually a bond built between Simon and Brian as well. They would talk about sports and video games. And when Brian wanted to practice for football season, Simon would help train him. They would go on runs and practice hit and power plays, even leg exercise. By the time tryouts happened, Simon, Alice, and Shannon were there to cheer him on when he passed them without issue. Turned out to be the best center the team seen in years. The family always made it to his games and were there for him when his family wasn't. One night after the family invited him for movie night, Simon saw Brian take his shirt off in another room due to it being stained. He saw in shock when he saw a bruise stretch from his right shoulder to his lower back. His white skin was now a mix of red, black, and blue. He called Brian over and talked to him. Brian was surprised, but before he could say anything, Simon got closer, then saw what looked like makeup on his right eye, and there was a bloodshot on his pupil. He lightly wiped the smudge of makeup off, revealing a black eye. Brian was ashamed and embarrassed. "Simon, it's my fault. Sometime Dad had a bad day, and I do something that ticks him off a bit. So this is just a... Brian, don't do that. I love you like my own son. I watched you grow into the fine young man you are today when you were barely 12. Don't lie. I know he is your dad, and you love him. But one of two things are going to happen. Either me, Shannon, and you are going to a social worker, then eventually the police, and you're going to tell them how long he has been beating you. Or I will kill that man before he puts another hand on you. Because you don't deserve that, Brian. You are a good, decent human being who plays his butt off at a sport that he loves. And we have no problem showing that when we see you do that which you love on the field. We love you, son." The word son stuck to Brian. It wasn't until he had Simon in his life that he felt like someone's son. Simon, Shannon, and Alice were the only people who treated like family. He cried in Simon's arms. When the girls heard what was happening, they rushed in, embracing him as he told them all the years of abuse. Alice was heartbroken as her friend since childhood went through this alone for so long. "You're not alone anymore, okay? I'm here. We all are." Brian fell in love with her that moment. They both did. And their love would only grow. Brian went to the social worker and police. His father was sent to prison. His mom was deemed unfit. So Simon officially adopted him, allowing him in his home, which made things even better for Alice and Brian. Their love for each other only grew. In time, Brian built the courage to ask Alice out when they were 16. She said yes, and they were official since. They would take dates and road trips together, snuggle up together, and watch their favorite binge show, go to functions and concerts all together. Simon wasn't too comfortable with his daughter making out with her boyfriend, but on the other hand, Simon knew exactly the kind young man Brian was, and he respected and loved him. He knew Brian had Alice's best intent. At their 18th birthday, they made love at the hotel for the first time at prom. It was beautiful, everything they hoped for and more. At graduation, Brian proposed to her, the image of her teary eyes playing in his head. They were so happy. He thought to himself as he continued his long drive back home. Alice cried and kissed Brian in her graduation gown as she told him, "Yes, oh God, yes. I love you so much." The wedding was simple. It was in their backyard, minor but beautiful decorations by the Arts and Crafts Club. Simon walked his daughter down in her beautiful dress. A preacher gave a beautiful speech, and the couple kissed and became Mr. and Mrs. Brian and Alice Godfrey. The next year, the couple stayed with him and Shannon. The house could hold 5 people and was massive, so it was a good place to save up. It was the most he had seen his family be happy. When Alice was 20, she became an entry-level assistant for an executive office. This would be a step in the career she wanted. But it was there she met Carter. Simon didn't like Carter when he first met him at that company picnic. He had a sense of arrogance and malice about him and how he treated others. When Alice introduced him as a friend at a function, everyone was delighted to meet him, except Simon. Something was off. A few months later, Alice was kind of off. Things she usually did with family and Brian began to decrease. She stopped watching Brian's games now that he was the assistant coach of his old high school team. She didn't talk to her mom as much as she used to, and it was like she was trying to hide something from Simon. She also began having more surprise late-night meetings and cancel family outings. One day, Brian was driving out of town to pick up supplies for the football team since their usual Go Supply store ran out. That when he noticed Alice's car at the motel. His heart broke when he saw her step out of the room with the same man he saw at the company picnic that time ago. When she looked up, buttoning up her shirt, their eyes meet. Alice was shocked and terrified, but also heartbroken, for when she saw that look on Brian's face, she knew it was over. All their childhood memories, loving and intimate moments gone. She called out for him, but he just stormed back into his truck and drove. Carter did nothing but walk to his car, not a care in the world. Simon would discover that what Carter did to Alice was like what he'd done to Kalina later. Carter met her when she started working for the company and started building her trust. Then one night, he told her to meet him in the lounge after work. He bought some bourbon and the two talked. He then slowly began to flirt, told her how lucky her husband was to have her, then told her how much of a benefit her working for the company is. All tactics to entice her. He then placed his hand on her leg and looked into her eyes. An overwhelming presence, not forceful but dominate. He told her to take off her blouse, without knowing why she did. He then told her to sit over the couch, without knowing why she did. He then had sex with her in that room. She enjoyed it, and would be his bitch from that moment on. When it was over, he told her if she wants to keep her job, she will abide by his every whim. Then after there was change in her behavior and routine, late night meeting, cancel family plan. Every urge he had would come to this a 5-month affair, and she agreed with him. Alice was frantic, seeing the gravity of her situation. What have I done? How could I be so stupid? Carter in his arrogance spoke nonchalantly. I got the room for us at the resort. As soon as you're done with this, meet me there next week. I want to screw you crazier than I did today. The slap was fast and hard. You scum sucker. Go screw yourself. I just broke the heart of the man I love and who loved me with every fiber of his being. And you're telling me where to screw you and how bad you want me? Screw you in this job. As Alice drove off looking frantically for her husband, Carter just moved on to the next company like the locust he was. Alice called her family, telling them everything that she has done and what brought her to this point. Both parents let out their disappointments, letting her know how stupid and selfish that was, but that they love her and no matter what happens they always will. They then began their search for her. Alice looked at all the hangout spots and sports bars she knew Brian liked. Shannon called the police departments giving the descriptions. Simon called in some favors from contacts he had with the outfit. A fully day went by, then another. Until the following day Simon received a call from an associate. We found him, man. Simon drove 30 miles out of town and found a truck crashed into a massive tree. There was no front that was seen. Brian's mangled body could not be identified, and they had to use a tattoo of a bandage heart with his wife's name on his left shoulder to identify him. And another of the few times, Simon cried over a man loved. Simon called Shannon and told her he had news and would be home soon. When he told them Brian was dead, he told them that there was a lot of empty beer cans and a few bottles of rum. He was drunk and emotional and died because of drunk driving. Hearing those words, Alice lost it. She cried hysterically and fell to the floor. Every hope she had of rekindling her love with her husband, every thought of even one day getting respect back and being friends if not together, or just to see that loving to smile and hear his voice was gone, and it was all her fault. The funeral was closed casket. People from the football team and faculty showed their respect, but that was it. Alice, dressed in her black dress, couldn't move on her own and had to be helped by her mother and Simon to go to the casket. Later night, Simon checked on his family, told them he loved them. Simon got a text on his cell. The word peanut was shown by a burn phone number. It was code for a meeting space near the old peanut factory. Simon spoke to his family. I must go. I'll be back soon. Just picking a few things up. Sharon understood what that meant and didn't argue. She knew Simon loved his family. We'll be okay, honey. Just come. Don't stay out too long, please. Simon nodded. Before he could say anything, Alice lunged up and hugged him as tight as she could. Daddy, I loved him so much. I'm so sorry. I know, baby. I know. I loved him as well. We all did. But he's gone now, okay? He isn't hurting no more. I'll be back soon. Alice nodded and made her way upstairs. Halfway to his destination, he realized he forgot something. He turned around to get it. When he entered, he saw his wife asleep, her tears still present. But then he noticed water coming from the stairs. A thought of dread hit him as he made the way to the bathroom. In the commotion, Shannon woke up, making her way upstairs as well. Parents screamed for Alice to open the door. When she didn't respond, Simon broke it down. To their horror, they saw Alice, their daughter who they loved more than anything. The little girl who always had that beautiful, innocent smile that could melt any cold heart was fully grown nude woman, lying in a bathtub full of water and blood from a slit wrist. Immediately, Simon picked up his daughter, while her mother tried to stop the bleeding. They barely made it to the hospital in time to save her. Shannon is an emotional wreck. I can't believe I almost lost our baby. Simon, I almost lost our baby. Simon held her in his arms, reassuring her. The doctor met them, told her that she is alive and well, but she would have to be admitted. Simon advised them that money was not an issue, and they will cover the hospital bills as well as bills for treatment. They asked if they could see her. The doctor allowed it. When Alice saw her parent, she cried in shame. She looked at Simon. Daddy, please don't hate me. I know it's my fault Brian's gone, and you loved him. But please don't hate me, Daddy. I'm so sorry. Simon held his daughter. I could never hate you, baby. I love you so much. Just your mother loves you. That will never change. You hear me? Simon then explained that she will have to go to a mental hospital because of what she did, but both he and her mother will visit her whenever they can. Alice was relieved by his words and promised to do whatever she can to get better. Simon would then learn everything he could about Carter, who he was, where he was from, and how many lives he destroyed. He loved Brian like his own son, and he loved his daughter, regardless of if they share the same blood or skin. Alice was his daughter. and a selfish scumsucker nearly killed them both, and he would pay for it. For the next 3 years, he tracked him down, learning everything about him in the process. He finally tracked him down. He learned he has the habit of destroying the couples and watch. Simon saw when he was for the resort with the priest wife. Simon was almost tempted to take him but fought against the idea, telling himself it was too soon. Cards been played, time to let them fall. He laughed when he saw what the priest did and was amused to find that he was a U.S. Marine sniper and known as the Shadow of Death with a kill count over 100. He also thought it was funny seeing Carter run away like the coward he was when he received that present the priest sent him. He tracked Carter all the way to the garage. Carter didn't realize that he was leaving digital breadcrumbs where he went to. The garage had a particular car in it, a 1994 mint green Plymouth Sundance. The car was ugly, but it was what was in the back. A large briefcase with $2 million. It was one of his stash spots since the garage was locked off from the public, and nobody bothered to beat down Carr. When he opened the trunk, Simon stuck his neck with the concoction that put him to sleep in less than a second, then tossed him in the truck of his car and drove. The surveillance system was hacked. Even if it wasn't, no one would see Simon's face. It looked like an overweight while male due to the makeup mask used, and the car would be destroyed before anyone noticed anything. That's what brought Simon to this place. Simon pulled into his driveway, reflecting on the night and his thoughts of the past. He prepared breakfast. The smell of bacon cooking mixed with the sweet scent of fresh blueberry pancakes brought the women he loves downstairs. Alice beamed. Blueberry pancakes? Dad is amazing. I'm glad we both agrees on something. Laughter filled the kitchen, and the family ate. It had been 3 years since Simon saw this sight. The people he loved with all his heart. Yet he noticed the lone empty chair, and he suddenly became quiet. He felt his wife and daughter's hand on his, a gentle smile across their lips. It's okay, honey. Yeah, Dad, it's okay. You were strong for us. You can let go now. The dam broke for Simon as he let out all the pain and hurt of losing Brian, the boy he loved like a son. And for the first time, it was Simon's family that would help him through something, not the other way around. Meanwhile, Father Mac woke up the following morning with purpose. It was 20 degrees outside, so he bundled up. He wore black jeans, a black long sleeve under overall, black tactical boots, black winter jacket, and a skull cap and gloves to further help with the cold. The only thing that showed he was a priest was his collar. As he made his way to the west side of the city, he recalled the week's past events. A few days have passed since he and the social worker discovered the boy, Brandon Taylor. The boy said he was sorry for eating, but there was hunger in his eyes. Mac recalled the day, remembering to assure the boy that he is safe and no one will hurt him. The boy took a moment before following them downstairs to the kitchen to get something to eat. He informed him that he had not eaten in days, and he didn't want to be beat by the father again. He told them that since his mother had died, his father has hated him. He used to be loving and kind, but one day it all changed. Father had the social worker take Brandon into custody where he could be cared for. What about the father? He's not going to take this lying down. He's going to know where his son is, and he has a right to know. I want him away from that monster, but it could take months, and Brandon could be. Mac placed a hand on her shoulder. You let me worry about that for now. Just make sure Brandon is safe. The father won't be any trouble. Mac was at his apartment, located on the west side of the city. The west side was known for its rundown and violent neighborhoods. This would be no exception. Mac made his way upstairs. While doing so, he recalled the file he read that contacts from the police department. He remembers going over it with Jasmine. Mac, this guy killed the kid's mother. According to this, the mother was cheating on him with a guy she met at work. She brought the guy to their home to have sex, but the husband, Patrick Smalls, found them in their bedroom. He overheard the guy say, "When are you going to tell him about my son so we can leave this place?" Turns out Brian isn't his son and has been raising him for over 7 years at that point. He kills both the cheating wife and affair partner. He was arrested, but found not guilty for crime of passion, reason of insanity. However, even though DNA proved the child wasn't his, the court ordered him to take care for the child. So that explains why the boy was terrified when we suggested to call his dad. Mac, this child has been paying for what his mother did since the day she died. Mac reached the floor of the address as he shut down the memory in his head. He needed to be focused for this. He knocked the door hard and waited. He heard the foot stepped until the door swung open. An overweight man standing at 6 feet with a white tank top on greeted him. His aggravated manner and bad breath did not faze Mac. In face before the man could say anything, Mac just let himself in. He then noticed a bowl of oranges on the table and helped himself to one. The man was dumbstruck. Who did this guy think he was? coming into his home like he owned the place. He then noticed Mac calmly take off one of his gloves, take knife, and peel the orange skin off before he spoke. "Mr. Alex Smalls Taylor, my name is Father Mac McCallanahan. I would like to talk to you about your son, Brandon." The man snarled at the mention of his name. "That scumsucker is not my son. His 304 mother dumped him on me. I showed that witch and her boy toy when they decided to come have sex in my home. The same home I bust my butt for a family that was never mine. So, no, father, that scumsucker is no son of mine. He is a constant reminder of how much I was made a cuck." Smalls spit on the floor to show contempt for the boy he once thought of as his son. "Now how much do you weigh, Mr. Smalls? 350, maybe, at about 6 feet? What is he, about 4 feet 70 pounds? Bit of a stretch for a heavyweight like you to be throwing your hands around someone who can barely reach your kneecap?" Smalls was angry at this point. "You, sanctimonious holier-than-thou piece of crap. Who do you think you were talking to?" Smalls reached Mac, taking a swing at him. Mac easily dodged the punch, taking a strong low right hook to the big man's side. The blow stopped him. Mac then gave a strong jab to the man's sternum, causing him to buckle to his knees, gasping for breath. Mac then kicked the man in the face, causing him to tumble onto his back. Before Smalls can say or do anything, he feels the heel of his chair on his neck. The entire thing took less than 8 seconds. The man is in a mixture of shock and fear, as he, standing at 6 feet 350 pounds, was manhandled by someone not even half his weight. As Mac looks down on him, he finishes his orange, all while maintaining a cold look onto Smalls right in the eyes. It terrifies him to the core. Father Mac calmly yet coldly spoke. Ezekiel 21:31, "I will pour out my wrath on you and breath out my fiery anger against you. I will deliver you into the hands of brutal men, men skilled in destruction." Father Mac's words rang loudly into the man's ear despite not yelling one, all while slowly eating his peeled orange. "That boy was terrified of you when the mere mention of you was brought up." Mac continued to eat the oranges as the knife danced effortlessly in his hand. "Whatever you did to that boy, it stops today. You are going to this social affairs office to see this woman." Mac drops the card on Smalls' cheek, scaring him and making him think he'll drop the knife in his face. "You are turning your rights away as a parent to her organization, no question asked. I think it fair to say you are not fit to be a parent due to emotional distress." Mac looked down on the man as he slowly nodded his head agreement. "All right." With that, Mac got up from the seat, allowing the man to breathe properly as he attempts to do so on the ground. Mac then makes his way to the door, leaving the beaten man on the ground. As Mac unlocks the door and is about to leave, he places his hand on the handle but doesn't turn it. He speaks to Smalls without turning around. "If I find out you did something more than beat on the boy, I'm coming back. And the next visit will not be as friendly as this one. Do we understand each other, Alex?" Alex spoke instantly. "Yeah, I understand. You won't have issues with me." A smile came to Mac's face as he opened the door. "Good to know," he says as he tosses the knife into its wooden holder without looking. Alex pisses his pants at the sight and what he just experienced. A few hours later, Mac makes his way to the park. It's still beautiful after all this time. It was where he met Colina all those years ago. He was lost and was looking for the main campus. He had just come back from Iraq, the death of his friend still fresh on his mind, when he saw her. The most beautiful woman had ever seen. Her autumn color hair reaching her shoulders, her tight yet comfortable jeans, and a rolled-up red and white lumberjack button-up shirt. He remembered how nervous she was, not knowing the city well and apologizing for asking. But also, how kind she was and reassuring that he was not a bother, or there was no need to apologize. He fell in love with her right then. As he sat on the bench remembering that day so long ago, he wonders if she had as well. Suddenly his phone rang. "Father, it's Jasmine." I don't know how, but Brandon's father signed his rights away. Brandon can now be in the program for troubled kids without court's hassle. Father Max smiled and thought to himself, "Good, I would not want to have broken his legs next. The crunch sound gives me the creeps." He then responds to Jasmine, "That's good news, Jasmine." How'd Brandon takes the news? Ecstatic. He's such a sweet kid. He will fit right in. He said the first thing he's going to do is eat a steak. I told him I got it covered. Just want to give you the good news. Take care, Father, and God bless. You as well, Jasmine. Father Max smiled at the sunset. It was always beautiful this time of year despite the cold. He smiled to himself and spoke. Perhaps it's not all bad after all, lords. Not bad at all. And Simon gathered himself up with a smile and made his way home. A week has passed since her last visit. Dr. Stevens suggested to take the extra days off to prepare for the next session. But the revelations of last week still swamped both her and her sister. She still recalls the moment she found out, thinking it was a mere stomach virus, only to hear what the doctor had to say. Oh my God, what am I going to do? This is insane. No way am I doing that. It wouldn't be right. But, oh God. These thoughts ran in her head as her sister just held her for support. No matter what, baby sis, I'm here. Colina patted her hand on her shoulder, thanking her sister for the very much needed support. This is just too much. I knew I would have to talk to him, but not this soon, and not for this reason. Megan looked at her sister. I know you're scared, Colina, and you have every right to be. But this whole situation and more is because you were scared and ran away. Now you can still be scared. But this time you must face it. No matter what happens, you owe it to yourself. You let a scumbag screw you out of your marriage because you were scared to say no and became addicted to the affair and lost your marriage as a result. You didn't always run away from your fears. There was a time when no matter how bad things seemed, you would face them. Now you must face them again, head on. But you know what? You won't face them alone. I stood up for you and beat that witch Victoria Hamilton when she always tried to bully you. Colina cringed at the memory of her. Did you have to bring her back up? That bitch was a pain in the butt throughout high school. She would always make fun of me. But I think it was my reaction to her that made her even more mad. When she made fun of the clothes I wore since she had the latest thing in fashion, I told her I like them and am not trying to impress someone who's not even wearing them. Or when she made fun of the fact I like jazz music, I told her at least I can play an instrument and not just with my hair unlike her. I didn't try to be a living baby doll, while I'm pretty sure she was a walking, talking investment for cosmetics and plastic. She would wear the most top-of-the-line clothes. I think back and it was her own insecurities. Everything that was me, I was okay with for the most part. Yeah, there were things I would like changed, but I never needed to be fake, just myself, and I like that. I went with it, while everything that was her, she hated and needed to hide behind something. She always found a fault with herself that she needed covered with makeup, fashion, and so-called friends, which was more an entourage of but kissers and yes ma'am types. All that gave her a sense of validation to be in place of the confidence she lacked in herself. Seeing me reminded her about that. Megan looked at her baby sister and tapped her shoulder and smirked. Okay, Dr. Ruth, nice speech, but can I finish mine and make the enlightened point I had while I can still remember it? Don't deny my moment, damn it. Both sisters laughed. Megan was pleased seeing her sister cry from laughter rather than stress. It seemed like forever since she'd done so. Yes, by all means, oh wise one, please continue. Colina gave a smirk after what she said. Okay, smartass. Well, I am intelligent. Megan couldn't help but laugh after Colina said that. Anyway, I saw you all at the mall cafeteria one day, when she tried to punch you. She thought you liked her boyfriend Tommy and was trying to steal him when all you did was give him one of your pins during one of your classes. You broke her nose, in fact. That was a nice right hook. Both sisters laughed at the memory. I think she had a thing for Thomas. She just wished he was her boyfriend. Colina corrected. Whatever, point being you didn't run or hide, or even asked for my help. You faced your fear. She never bothered you for the rest of your time in high school. You faced your fear, and even though her cronies got some shots on you after you broke the queen's nose, you faced your fear. It wasn't about some bullshit street creed. It was a matter of self-respect. That you may be afraid, you may be affected and terrified of what you fear, but you will never let it control you, or how you live your life. Because that's what it is at the end of the day, Colina. It is your life. You faced fear before baby sister, and smiled in its face before you decked it with a smile. You gave it the steering wheel these past 3 months, and that more than long enough. It's time to kick it out of your ride, and take control of the driver's seat that is your life. Colina smiled after hearing that from her sister. She needed to hear that. These past months have been hell. In fact, further than that, way before the affair even started. Megan was right. She can no longer be controlled by her fear. No matter what happens, she must embrace that more than ever now. Colina shed a tear and smiled before she addressed her sister. Okay, that speech was good. However, I do have one question. Megan playfully gloated. By all means, ask away. What were you exactly doing while I fought at the mall cafe? A sinister smile came to Megan's lips before she answered. I was demonstrating the affects of how a hardcover cafe lunch tray can cause when it comes to contact with multiple faces, particularly when those faces belong to little witches that want to jump my baby sister. Colina gave a slight chuckle and smiled before giving her eldest sister a hug. Love you to big sis, love you too. And thanks. At the end of the session, Colina felt somewhat lighter. She still had her burdens, but they did not weigh heavy on her mind. She never cried like that before. never felt such raw emotion. The only thing that may have given it companions was when she cried on the floor of what used to be her house. When Mac told her that although he forgave her, her could no longer be her husband. But even that may not be as raw as the emotion she felt today. She told Dr. Stevens secrets that she thought she would have to take to the grave. Things that she believed she may be judged for, and she may in fact may be judged. But she had to acknowledge, face, and eventually conquer her fear. 3 months ago, you came through this door. You were scared, cut off, incapable of even telling me how you were doing that day. Now look at you. A smile of pride beamed on Dr. Stevens' face. Fear had its grip on you. It controlled you. Fear is something we can never get away from. It is not like a convent light switch we can turn off as if we are going to bed. However, many people, including myself at times, forget that fear is also a benefit. Fear helps keep us in check. It informs us of certain dangers and consequences that could put our lives and well-being in peril. A police officer feels fear when he goes into a shootout, so that officer takes precautions so that lives including the officer is protected and no one dies. And if someone has to, it's the suspect who's intent on killing someone. The soldier feels fear so that they don't do something that will get them, or their entire unit killed. And so that despite the fear know they may die in the mission, fight and control it so that they or others can make it home as well as the mission being complete. A business executive takes risk on a regular, perhaps not with their life per se, but on millions of others' well-being. Every decision can either build a profitable market supporting countless families and creating jobs so that many people can be paid and afford food and shelter, or it can destroy a country by putting it in economic ruin, where people are so poor due to lack of resource they must live in shelter and go to bread lines and soup kitchens for food. Yet if the business executive does nothing, economic ruin will be the eventual outcome. There is always risk in fear, but when we conquer our fears and not them control us, when fear is no longer a dictating factor of how our lives are lived, then we can truly be free. Today you took that first step in conquering your fear to remove them from the driver's seat. By sharing what you shared with me today, you faced things be reliving the memories that brought you immense pain. Things that affect you now. It hurt you then as it does now see these things again. But do you know what you have done? You have taken power back. You have truly begun the journey of taking control of your life again. I'm so proud of you. Colina cried tears of joy when she hugged Dr. Stevens as tight as she could. Thank you, Janet. I could never have gotten to this point without you. Janet hugged her back and chuckled. Of course you could have, honey. May have just taken a little bit longer is all. Now I think it is fair that we can cut our sessions down to once a month now. How about you? Colina nodded in agreement, her smile evident. I also understand that there's an engagement that you have to attend after our session today. A small yet determined smile came to Colina's face. It's been long enough. It is time to face what I've been running from for so long. Dr. Stevens smiled. I agree. Good luck, my dear. I know you can do this. That little girl inside you needs this. It is long overdue. With that, Colina hugged her doctor once more, then headed out of the door of her office and went to face her fears head on. The state prison was an hour away. The day was cold but beautiful. The color of the leaves was orange, brown, and red. She always loved the fall season. It was as if the season only time to be themselves, and not like the other leaves where everything is only one color. She always liked that since she was a kid. The prison guard at the other side of the desk gathered her personal belongings. He advised her that phones or any electronic devices were prohibited, and that also the presence of narcotics will not be tolerated, and all who attempt to bring them in prison walls will be prosecuted. There was even what they called last chance line. It was a sing with a box that stated, if someone had narcotics on them, but they don't want to proceed with the crime for whatever reason, to drop the contents in the metal box and step away from the line, and they would not be prosecuted. She followed the guard who took her to an empty but slight large room. She thought to herself when she made an appointment for this visit months ago. The idea terrified her, because she never seen the man since he was locked up 20 years ago. But now, despite feeling nervous and even scared, she feels a resolve she never felt before and will see it through. When the buzzer went off, a door on the other side of the room opened. She saw a burly prison guard about 6 feet 4 inches tall, escorted a man who looked like his in his mid-50s. He has a fresh haircut with black and pepper-like hair, along with his mustache and goatee. The man stood at 5 feet 9 inches, fit, lean, and muscular, and was wearing blue jeans and a dark blue long-sleeve button-up shirt. The letter DOC on a pant leg, and the same on the back of the shirt. She thought to herself that despite being in prison, he seemed larger than she remembered him. The guard removed the chains and handcuffs from his wrist and informed both he and Colina of the rules. No exchanging any materials currently, and no hugging without permission. Also be advised that this visit is monitored and recorded. Colina could not look at the man at first, even when both made their way to the small table. She kept her eyes to the floor. She then remembers what she learned at the session and spoke words to herself while taking a few deep breaths. Understand the shame. Let go of the guilt. She then turned her eyes toward the man. For most people, this man was known as someone not to be messed with. Despite him being a minority in prison, his respect was established years ago. Everyone who chose to try to test him and try to abuse him, it did not turn out well for them. He had sent 12 to the infirmary since his stay in prison, including and not limited to the removal of an individual that tried to assault him. That same individual he ended up killed by his own hands in a later scuffle. That and all other attempts were deemed self-defense, which prevented additional time to his sentence and established his respect in the prison community. He never wanted trouble and just wanted to do his time. But this was prison. It was a different world than the outside. When she finally looked at him, she expected to see a face full of hate, anger, and of who was betrayed. Instead, it was one of warmth, comfort, and what was the last thing she expected? Love. The man across the table gave her the warm and loving smile she saw so long ago as tears fell from his eye, and she could not help but do the same. It was a look she did not think she would ever see again. A look that she did not think she deserved. It was the look that only a loving father could give to his daughter. "Hi, Daddy." Colina could barely get the words out as she cried tears of joy for not seeing her father in over 20 years. "Hey, Pumpkin, how's my little girl?" Colina could not help herself when he called her his nickname for her. She got up and rushed to hug her father as tight as she could, and he did the same as she cried hard into his arms. He looked at the guard for approval. The guard smiled and allowed it. He then brushed his hand on her head, lightly shushing her to calm her down, while he lightly sung her favorite song to her, just how she liked it when she was a kid. "Daddy," she said while crying in his shoulder. "Shush, it's okay, Pumpkin. Daddy's here with you now. It's okay. And just to clear the air, remember Daddy loves you, honey, with all my heart. That has never changed, and I promise it never will." Colina cried tears of joy when she heard that. It seemed like forever with how long they hugged each other. The guard eventually walked up to the family. He calmly and respectfully asked the man to let go due to policy. The man lightly asked back, 30 seconds, Jeffries?" Jeffries allowed it out of respect. "No problem, Ben," and smiled and stepped back to his original position across the room, until Benjamin eventually let go. Sitting down with his daughter, Benjamin did not just have respect for the convicts, but also the guards. He was working laundry one night when he heard a scuffle. A crooked CO known to have connections, and an inmate had just beaten 2 young guards. A man, Marcus Jeffries, who was knocked unconscious with a serious head wound laid out on the floor, and a woman, Bridget Williams, both no older than 21 years old. They were stern when they had to be, but always fair and respectful to the inmate, unlike other COS like Jacob Chambers. One day they discovered Jacob given Benjamin grief about his pictures when Jacob took it off his wall while his cell was being searched. It was a picture of his daughter Colina. When she started first grade, Jacob never liked Benjamin ever since they met and made it a point to be known. He even had attempts made on his life, however all failed. This day Bridget and Marcus came upon the scene and confronted Chambers in front of everyone. When he threatened them, they stood firm. Chambers left embarrassed, while Bridget and Marcus gave him back his photo. The following month, both Bridget and Marcus were running around laundry when they were suddenly attacked by 2 inmates. Marcus was struck in the head with a pipe without looking, while Bridget let out a scream. She fought back but was no match for the 2 unknown men. Then Jacob stepped into view. "This is what happens when you disrespect me, you little witch. You and your boyfriend are about to be made a very violent example of." The inmates were released by Chambers from Block 3, which held snitches and sex offenders. They were among his eyes and ears of the prison, and at times more, like right now. He told her, "I'm going to watch them assault you, witch, and then have you killed. Say that Marcus got crazy and assaulted then killed you, but that I had to stop him, but it was too late." Chambers said that with an evil smile. The horror on her face was evident because she knew it could work. She fought harder but was struck by a hard punch to her, taking the fight out of her. She began to cry to herself when she felt her belt be taken off but was suddenly free and heard a struggle. Looking up, she saw Chambers gasping for breath when she saw his throat had been stabbed with a broken mop handle. The wood still in Chambers' neck as he fell. Then she watched as Benjamin used a padlock and a sock he got from the inmate and crack his skull with it. The inmate's body shook until he eventually died. The other inmate who saw this then took Bridget as a hostage, putting a shank to her throat. "I'll kill the witch. Get out of my way now, old man." Benjamin looked at him as if her were a patient predator ready for his kill. Suddenly, Bridget saw the blade was not on her neck and stepped on the inmate's toe as hard as she could and held the shank away from her, causing the man to scream in pain. Benjamin then took the blade and threw it and grappled with the man, removing Bridget from the fight entirely. In the scuffle, both men beat each other, but Benjamin ended up behind the man, wrapping his arms around the man's neck, then broke it. Bridget and Marcus were eventually found and treated for their injuries, and Benjamin was taken in for questioning after being treated for his. A prosecutor wanted to take Benjamin to trial for the triple homicide, but with evidence of corruption, motive, and witness testimony of Bridget, and the face she was the governor's favorite niece, it was seen as an act of self-defense, gaining him respect for killing a crooked CO and 2 sex offenders, and for saving the lives of 2 honest officers from both COs and convicts. Benjamin looked at his daughter, not hiding his smile at all. "Look at you. You got so big. But I guess that happens in 20 years. Expecting a laugh, Ben sees that his daughter is sad. "Dad, I'm sorry for putting you in here. You were in here because of me. It's all my fault. I wish I never." Benjamin took his daughter's hand. "Don't ever say that. You understand. Look at me, Colina." Colina looked into her father's eyes like a lost child, trying to find her way home. "You are not here because of you, or anything you did. What happened was because of what I had done, and it was my choosing. I did what I had to do, and was of sound body and mind, and I would do it again if it meant protecting my family. So, hush with that noise, baby. I love you, and there wasn't a moment that I blamed you. Not from when I did it. Not from the moment I was placed in cuffs and put in the patrol car. Not from when I was sentenced in that courtroom. Not from when I first heard that cell door close, and not to now. I never blamed you, and never will. I love you, baby, and I will always protect you as long as I breath. Any father would do that for his child, and I'm no exception." Colleen shed tears when she heard that. "Thank you, Dad. You have no idea how long I needed to hear that. I was so guilty to visit you because I felt like it was my fault you were in here in the first place. I see how stupid I was about that now. Again, thank you for being there for me." Her father then took a frown to his face. "Megan told me about Mac, about the affair, all of it. Is it true, honey?" Colina lowered her head for a moment, then raised it back to see his eyes. "Yes, Daddy, it's true." A look of disappointment came from him. "I would want you to be better that, honey. There is no excuse for hurting someone you love so much in such a disrespectful way." Colana shed a few tears as her father's words cut deep in her. "But you also found the courage of facing what you have done, and are doing the work to find out why you did it. You faced many demons from your past and are trying your best to make amends and hold yourself accountable, all to be a better person. Yes, Colleen, I'm disappointed in you for hurting Mac the way you did, but I'm so proud of you for facing the consequences of your action, facing your fears, and being a better and stronger person than you ever were." Her father's words hit their mark. Both negative and positive were made to help her and not hurt but to build, and she appreciated that. "You know, your mother was here last week. To think after all these years, she is still as beautiful as the day I met her." A smile came to Kalina's face. "She still knows how to kiss too." "Dad, I don't want to hear that. I mean, hey, how else you got here? I'm aware of the birds and the bees since you and Mom gave me and Megan that God talk." "Yeah, it was awkward," both laughed at the memory. "I told her to divorce me when I was sentenced. That someone as beautiful as her doesn't deserve to be alone for a decade, but be with a man who will love, honor, and respect her. You know what that stubborn woman said?" Colina shook her head no. She said, "And he will have a place to come back home when his sentence is finished." I filed for divorce. It took a year, but it was done. In response, she sent me a photo of her in her wedding dress. My God, she was beautiful. She had the note, "First year, my love." She would send me the same photo with the same message, "Second year, my love." "Seventh year, my love." All up to last week. She came in her wedding dress. Last year, handsome. Benjamin reflected on the fact that his 20-plus year sentence was up, and that the governor pulled some strings to get him a profitable state job when he gets out. That beautiful, stubborn woman waited 20 years for me. God, I love her. Colleen shed a tear of the statement. It didn't surprise her. Her parents, Katie Ezekiel Reilly, and her father, Benjamin Scott Riley, were high school sweethearts, but knew each other since they were kids. They had her oldest sister when they were just 18. Yet despite the odds, their love and and respect for each other only grew. They loved and raised their two beautiful girls and supported their family, and then some tier was indeed a rare love. Your mom and I are getting married next month, but I'll be home next week. I think we should go have a talk before we get to that. Make up for lost time? Also, if it is all right with you, I would like to go with you in one of your sessions your sister and mom keep telling me about. What do you think, Pumpkin? Colana smiled at the thought. I think I would like that. The guard announced it was time to leave. But before Benjamin left the table, Colina spoke. Dad, I have to tell you something. Carter has been in this frustrating state for 3 weeks. And it's been even longer since he's been trapped in this room. The insane part is how it is maintained and clean despite it being his prison. It was as if not matter what happened, the room would be clean every time he woke up. As if a cleaning crew came in while he slept. There were times he would act up, of course. One time he even threw his boldly waste due to the seclusion and isolation. He ended up getting the worst bedding of his life so far. It cost him a semi-deaf ear from a ruptured eardrum. A nose broke on multiple occasions, toe broke ribs to name a few injuries. And his face was forced in his own waste as if he were a dog. He was forced to clean his area and showered. He never did anything like that again. Now this was different. There were no sessions for the past 3 weeks, but he was frustrated. He was a man with needs, and never been without a woman for so long. But every time he tried to please himself, a loud alarm would go off, and the room would flash red. Sometimes, strong jet stream of water would move him out the bed, and he was forced to deal with it. He just sat there and thought to himself, how the hell am I going to get out of here? Suddenly the door opened, and the big man stepped in. Carter pressed his back to the wall of the room. Without word, the man pulled out a gun and aimed at Carter. Wait, don't! The gun fired instantly, hit Carter in his chest, the dart sticking out as if mocking Carter before he would pass out. When Carter came to, he notices he was naked from the waist down. He was laying on his stomach, but based on a draft, knew he was exposed. He could also smell that he had been bathed for some reason. Suddenly a film came on the projector screen. It was an adult film. Carter, from his frustrations of being without sex for 3 weeks, became excited. He wanted to do something, but he couldn't since he was tied down and couldn't move his hands. After an hour had passed, Carter became angry and cursed. Damn you! Whoever the hell you are, damn you! You hear me? Suddenly he saw the door open. He was about to curse the big man as usual, but saw it was a beautiful woman in a nurse uniform with a bag with a red cross stitched on it. He could not see her face due to the surgical mask, but he could tell she was a beautiful woman. She had olive-colored skin and stood at 5 feet 5 inches. Lean, but had a thick waist. He also saw she had short-cut hair, but her hair lightly covered one of her eyes. She then approached him, while the movie continued. Listen, whoever you are, you must get me out of here. I can pay you whatever you want. Money is not an issue. Just, what are you standing there looking at me for? Get me out of. He sees that she is looking at his exposed, naked body, and makes his way behind him. Before he can respond, he feels her pleasuring him. The fact that it's been over 3 weeks, and the video playing is too much for him. But before he can finish, she suddenly stops. He curses and insults her. You stupid witch. Why did you do that? Why did you stop? He then sees the nurse look at him and tilt her head as if mocking him, but she says nothing. The nurse gathers her belongings and walks out the room, and the video stops. He then ponders to himself, I was just taken, but I do that? Me, damn it. How many women have I done that to? Suddenly the monitor comes alive again, and he sees a woman in her mid-30s. She is beautiful, her pale skin and her red hair. Her eyes as green as a lime, and despite her state, her smile was warm and welcoming, yet has a tiered look as she smokes her cigarette in a living room. He recognizes her instantly when she makes introductions. Yeah, my name's Abby, Abby West. I was formerly a teacher for the local preschool. I was good at my job. In fact, I loved it so much. See, you must have a love for children when you do this work. When they are so young, they are still trying to find out what these things called fingers are, and what are these things on my face? Oh, those are my eyes. There is something beautiful in helping them learn in the beginning of their journey of life. No, not all of it is pleasant. Again, you must love this job because kids are anything but always neat and tidy and clean. A slight laugh comes from her lips, yet it stops as soon as it began. My daughter, Christina, wanted to be a teacher as well. I had her very young, you see. I was 16 when I had her. She watched me when she was a child when I babysat her cousins and other kids. Her father was the guy I went to high school with. He was going to marry me when he found out, even did the whole, "Sir, I want to marry your daughter," speech to my dad. Oh God, I still remember how nervous he was and how pissed my dad was. But he respected him. and we set up a date. But when I'm 3 months pregnant, he died in a car crash. A tear falls down her face as the memory plays in her head, but then she continues with her story. Anyway, years go by and my baby graduates high school. I was so proud of her. She tells me the school she's going to, and she was so happy and determined. We celebrated with her friends and family big that night. A month later, I wanted to go to the bar for karaoke. Christina was in college now, so it was just me. There I met him, Carter. I could tell he was younger than me. I'd say about 7 years at the most. But God, did he look good. He had this style and way he carried himself that was just addictive. He could tell you to do anything you say, and that would be enough. I still don't know how he did it, but I found myself making out with him in his car. We ended up at his house and had probably the best sex I had in years. He was dominating and always in control. No matter how degrading it, I loved it. The next morning, I left no question. Weeks later, he hits me up, asking to meet up. I say sure. We keep it casual for the next month. Until one day, he comes to my place unannounced. I don't like when people just show up, so I let him have it. Yet through the whole time I'm yelling, he just smile. I need you to come here tonight, no questions asked. I tell him for screw off with that attitude. He tries to say he owns me, and I'll do what he tells me. I slap him and tell him to get off my property. He looks at me and speaks. You'll pay for this. I didn't take him seriously. I wish to God I did. Even if it meant killing him, I wish to God I did. The woman cried a little bit before continuing. Years later, Christina graduates and is ready to conquer the world. Has all her doctrines and masters, and not even out her mid-20s. I was so proud of her. She worked so hard and sacrificed so much. Then one day we are both homes. She had just finished her job interview at the press school, and she knocked it out the park. I get a text on my phone from a friend saying, "What is this, Abby?" I turn it on, and it is 2 videos. One of me having sex with Carter, and the other of my daughter having sex with Carter and another woman. From the looks of the cameras and angles, we were not aware we were being recorded. And Christina didn't really talk to me that much about her sex life. If she was safe, and if she only asked when she had a question, I was fine. I looked at my daughter and saw the horror in her eyes when she not only saw the video on her phone, but saw that it was now viral. I don't know how he did it, but he has us on separate occasions having sex with us and recorded us without even knowing it. The videos were on social media and started getting hits on adult websites. Oh God, the look in my daughter's eyes. I would walk through hellfire if I had to remove that look. She was so devastated and embarrassed. She told me she dated Carter for a little bit in college. She thought he loved her. About 6 months into their relationship, she told him my name, and everything changed. The sex became more frequent and wild. She was young, of course she loved it. She thought it was empowering. They even experimented with other women. She thought he loved her, and they were closer, until he suddenly broke it off. No warning, just over. She was so devastated. It almost cost her scholarship due to her lack of work. But we were there for her. We were there for my baby. Me, my parents, her friends, teachers she respected. We were there for her, to pick up the pieces that scumsucker broke. Through the whole time, no one told me his name. I didn't care. I just wanted my baby to be okay. The moment she walked across that stage, we were so proud of her. I didn't realize this was all connected to me. I told her about him, and she did me. Despite that my baby girl still loved me, she didn't blame me at all. Abby cried again, needing a minute before continuing. We tried calling the police, but they said there was nothing we could do since both tapes were at his residence. There were no cyber laws like today at the time. We were embarrassed and devastated. Then the day came when the school board called us both in. The tape made its way to a parent, and they decided to kill my career. As much as that hurt, I could live with that, but they killed my daughter's career along with mine. They stated her actions are a danger to children, and that she shall never be a teacher. When she heard that, she fell to the floor. I still see the look of shock in her eyes. My sweet life-filled vibrant baby died in that damn assembly room. For the next few weeks, she was just a shell. She couldn't eat or sleep. I saw my baby dying in front of me even though she was alive. Then one day I come home and find her car in the driveway. She usually leaves it in the garage because she doesn't like the rain ruining it. I come inside and that's when I notice the smell of gunpowder. I run through the house calling her name, but then I make it to her bedroom. My baby, she used my... Abby broke down before she could continue. She was wearing her favorite dress I bought her. I called the ambulance, but I knew she was gone. All I could do was hold my baby. My beautiful baby. I saw a note that said, "Mama, I'm sorry for this, but they killed me when they said I can't be a teacher like you. That's all I ever wanted. I wanted to have lunch with you in the teacher's lounge of the school we both taught at, and tell my students how I get along at work with my mama. This is not your fault, Mom. Please believe me when I say I didn't know he recorded it. Goodbye, Mama. I'm leaving now to meet Daddy. I'll make sure we got space for you up there. I love you, Mom. Signed, your baby girl. Abby just cried and cried. My baby. Oh God, my baby. He could have just killed me if I hurt him so bad. But why? Why did he have to hurt my baby? She was innocent. I just can't. Abby just kept crying until the tape eventually stopped. Carter just laid there watching into nothing. He remembered both women and how selfish he was. He was so hurt that he wanted to hurt the mother who scorned him and the daughter who just wanted to love him. All because a mother he once had sex with had the audacity to tell him no. So, what does he do? He destroys her world. Carter then did the unthinkable. He cried out of genuine regret. I didn't think she would do that. I didn't know she did that. As Carter cried, he suddenly notices a piece of the mirror that wrapped around the room, revealing a camera. He then sees the monitor and sees himself in different angles, showing that what he had endured was recorded. He then sees another screen that has a mouse icon hovering over the word "send" covered in a green box. Carter looks in horror as the mouse clicks on it. Simon walks out the building, leaving instructions for the staff on how to handle the patient, then drives home. When he arrives, he sees Alice watching a movie. Oh, hey Dad, you're home early. Mom tried to hang with me and watching the new season of. Without a word, Simon walks to his daughter and hugs her. Alice thoughts and begins to let the tears fall. Daddy, what wrong? Are you okay? He just brings her head to his with his tear-filled eyes. I love you, baby girl. Okay, I just want you to know that I love you with all my heart. Alice cries and smiles as well. I love you too, Daddy. I'm sorry I scared you that night. It doesn't matter, baby. You are still here. And I promise I'll never stop loving you or your mom. You two are my world. And father and daughter embraced each other, reminding each other that no matter how cold or cruel the world may be, they are loved. Mac had finished his lunch at the diner. He thinks back these past few weeks. His involvement with helping the community as well as the church has given him purpose. He feels a drive that he once thought was gone when he lost Colina. Colina, the same wife that he loved with all his heart. Now he still loves her. Or the life of him, he doesn't understand why though. After everything she had done to him, why does he still love her? As he is lost in his thought, his guest arrives. He had not seen her in ages, too long honestly. He could never forget everything they'd been through. On your feet, Marine. Mac embraces Megan in a tight and sincere hug. It's good to see you, Megan. You look good. Oh, stop. She looks at him after she hugs him again. It is good to see you again, Mac. For what it's worth, I'm sorry for what happened to you and Megan. Mac welcomed his old friend into his booth and ordered 2 sodas. So, what prompted you to call this meeting, Megan? Megan took a breath. It's about Colina. She's been going through a lot lately, Mac. Mac's face looked stern. You don't say? Well, I'm sure she will seek the help she needs. And I will pray for her. Come on, man, don't do this. Don't do what exactly, Megan? Ignore the fact that the woman who I loved with every fiber of my being hurt me so deep that I walked away from the priesthood for a bit, that I cried myself to sleep countless nights wondering why I wasn't good enough? Like, wow, how terrible was I that of all people she chooses to have an affair with? She chooses the egotistical narcissistic jerk that rubs my face in it and tells me every deplorable graphic thing he does to my wife, while hiding his intent behind confession. But you want to know something really dumb? That after crushing my heart and everything she and that despicable human being put me through, I still care for her. Isn't that stupid? After all I went through with her, I still care about Colina. You know, I still haven't signed the papers yet. You know why? Because it still doesn't feel real that she's sent there anymore. That she is gone. But how can you care for someone who's still gone? I still see her in the kitchen, smiling, making my glass of juice. Still see her smile, wishing me a good day, letting me know everything is all right. I still hear her jokes. I hear and feel all of that. And it hurts Megan. It hurts like hell. Mac tires to fight the tears, but Megan comes to his side of the booth and holds him. It's okay, soldier, I got you. Mac then let all the pain he was holding it so that he didn't let out go. Every tear he did not let out. Every scream he could not yell. Every memory of good times that now seemed like a lie. The fact that he lost his wife to such a scoundrel, Mac, after all this time focusing on helping and being there for others, finally had someone there for him. What's wrong with me? The words cut Megan deep, hearing her friend in arms in such a state. She can only imagine the pain he is in. She just holds him as he cries. Sergeant Mac McClanahan, there is nothing wrong with you. You saved the lives of many soldiers, mine included. You made sure we made it home to our families and loved ones when we didn't think it possible. You killed that piece of crap who took pleasure in killing so many of our soldiers. When he was about to burn me alive as he did her for, your bullet stopped him from lighting that Zippo. So, no Mac, there is nothing that is wrong with you. My little sister is an idiot, that's all. I'm sorry she hurt you. I came here to ask a question, but right now, we are going to wait here and let you demons in pain out, no matter how long it takes. The diner is empty, just us soldiers helping the other in battle. I got your six like you got mine. So, bunkin' soldiers, let it out. And so, Mac did just that. He cried, he yelled. He cursed all of it to finally let go of all the pain he had been holding inside of him. About 20 minutes later, Mac had shed his tears. He wiped his face and gathered himself. He took a sip of his soda and spoke. Thank you, Corporal Megan, really. I needed that. Megan smiled. We all do at some point. Can I share my proposal, Mac? Mac nodded his head. His face was now calm despite the presence of tears. Colina has been seeing a therapist for the past 3 months. Since everything went the way it did, she has made real progress, Mac. She wants to know if she can see you and talk. This is not a means of getting back together, Mac. She knows that is not an option. She kicks herself with the fact every day. She has news that she wants to share with you. Things that happened before you met and things that happened after. That's all, Mac. Would you be a light if she could see you and talk? Any place of your choosing. If you don't want to, she will leave you alone, no questions asked, and will never bother you again. Mac thought about it, thinking about the pros and cons of this. Would he benefit from this? Is this some kind of trap? Could he really move on? These questions and others filled his head. Finally, what felt like forever, he responded. The church in North Avenue is closed on Saturday, but the bishop will let me use it. Tell her we can meet there. The two friends then got up and embraced each other again. Thank you, Mac. I really appreciate this. For all of it. Hey, we got each other's six, right? Mac walked Megan to her car. Take care of yourself, Mac. And remember, there is nothing wrong with you. Mac waved as she drove off, and he went home to prepare for the eventual meeting with his wife, whom he had not seen in 3 months. Mac woke up in a park bench. He wondered how he got there. The further he walked, he noticed that despite it being night, the sky looked like something of a cartoon. The moon looked bigger than usual, and the stars looked like they were in the stratosphere itself. Something is off. No kidding, Crayon Eater. Mac knew that voice, but it was impossible, because the person who it belonged to was dead. Mac slowly turned around to see his best friend, his brother in the Corps. Tears fell from his eyes as he spoke the name, Rico? The young man smiles back to his friend wearing his cami, his signature smiles evident. Hey brother, you look like you've been through it. Mac hugged his best friend. I missed you, man. Why? How? I'm sorry, man. I'm so sorry I couldn't save you. I should have watched the roofs better. I should have found the guy. I should. Calm the hell down would be a start, brother. Relax, let's catch up. The two soldiers sat, Mac now noticing he has his cami on as well. So, Megan, huh? I'm sorry, man. You didn't deserve that. Mac drank his beverage that suddenly appeared. No, I did not. You used to make fun of me when I got religious. Look at you, the white boy padre. Both men laughed. I'm sorry, I swear if you apologize again, man, I'm going to hurt you in your own dream. Mac laughed. I miss you, man. I wish you were here to help me through this shit. Last I checked, you already have that. You're meeting her later, in fact. Mac was about to speak. There is nothing to forgive, carnal. You made it home. That's what I wanted. I just want you to do something for me, though, okay? What is that? To live, carnal. To live. Mac then saw his friend walk to his truck in the meadow. Rico waits. I got your six, carnal. Remember that I always got your six. It was dawn when Mac woke up. He felt a calmness he never expected. He was ready. He said a prayer to God and a thank you to his friend, then made his way to the church. Colina stepped through the doors of the church. It was still beautiful despite the past 100 years it had been around. It was where she and Mac were married after all. She recalled the wedding. How nervous she was, wondering if she had made the right decision. It was when she walked down that aisle and saw Mac in his suit. A smile that warmed her heart with such love and compassion. She knew then. Hello, Colina. Colina froze when she heard Mac's voice. It had been over 4 months since she last heard it. She wanted to run to him, but held off due to her love and respect for him. Mac, thank you for allowing this. It is good to see you. Please sit with me. I have a lot to tell you. And not just what you already know. Mac sat next to her on the front bench of the church. Mac, you will never know how much it pained me to hurt you like this. From my heart and soul, I am sorry. I have no excuse for what I did. All the lies and pain I caused you is inexcusable, but I will not insult you and repeat things you already know. I have been seeing a therapist for these past months, Mac. It made me realize that there was something I was running away from. Please know that this is not an excuse for what I did to you, but a possible idea what prompted me down this path. You know my father is in prison, Mac, but you don't know why. Mac paused, feeling a sense of dread where this is going. Mac, I was 12 when it happened. We were having a family event at our house. I was mad because one of my cousins stole the last slice of cake before I could get a piece. Of course, me being 12, I pouted and went to my room. But then, my older cousin Alan came to my room to check on me. I loved Alan. Whenever there was a problem, I could count on him. Whether it's to stand up for me and help me with a problem, he was there. Alan was 17 at the time. He sat next to me on my bed, asked me what was wrong, and I told him. As I was talking, that's when I noticed his hand on my leg. I didn't like what he was doing, so I told him to stop. But Alan didn't listen, and even told me this was okay. His hand moved further up. At that point I tried to run, but he grabbed my hand and threw me on the bed. Max saw that she was crying and held her shoulder. Colina, you don't have to. Yes, Mac, I do. He assaulted me right there, Mac. That scum forced himself on me. I tried to fight him, I did, but I couldn't. Mac held her as the anger was rising. He would love nothing more than to make Alan suffer as much as humanly possible. I thought I was alone, but Daddy came upstairs because he forgot something. He came to my room and saw Alan. He beat him to death in front of me. I ran outside, my pants torn and I'm crying. I told everyone what happened. By the time they got upstairs, my dad was covered with Alan's blood. The cops were called, and they locked him up. It didn't matter that he defended me. They charged him with murder and sent him 24 years of prison. My family was split after that. No one came near us because of me. Mac, I blamed myself for getting my dad locked up for so long. I couldn't even visit him until last week because I felt so guilty for him being there. Oh God, Mac, I hated myself for so long. I'm sorry I never told you. I just couldn't. Colina was in tears, and Mac was embracing her, protecting her even now. The reason I had the affair was because I was selfish and weak, but also because I felt like I deserved the abuse for failing my daddy and for failing you. I could not even tell my husband such a trauma. For this and more, I'm sorry, Mac. Mac then heard footsteps and saw Megan and another woman. Father Mac, my name is Dr. Stevens, and I have been treating Colina these past 3 months. She has suffered severe sexual trauma as a child. Now mind you, this does not cause a person to cheat, but the fallout of unsolved childhood trauma such as Colina can lead to an array of emotional and relationship challenges. The way she allowed herself to be treated by Carter for one. However, this is the first time she has faced it. This is no excuse for her actions by any means. This is only a pathway to what may have caused her to go this route. Mac was in shock. He had no idea that Colina was in such turmoil. All these years of being there for him and pulling him out of the darkness, to find out that she had such dark scars. She never visited her father, not out of embarrassment, but shame. Mac could only hold her and ease her pain as much as possible. Mac said, I'm sorry that happened to you, honey. I'm so sorry. Colina then spoke. Mac, there is something else. Colina stepped away and pulled out a piece of paper. That paper is a DNA test result. Mac, I'm pregnant with our daughter. Mac was dumbstruck. He didn't even realize this was happening. She was conceived when we went to our favorite park. That night, noon was there, and the moon and stars were so beautiful. The entire night was heaven. You took me out on a spontaneous date. We went to the old movie theater to see childhood movies and a classic romantic comedy we both liked. We went to the park and just looked at the sky. You looked at me and said, as beautiful as this night is, it doesn't compare to the beauty that is you and the love I share with you. Matt cut in and finished the words before Colina could. That was a good night. Colina smiled. Yes, it was. It was a few weeks ago before everything. We are having a baby? Mac thought to himself. He couldn't believe it. He was going to leave at one point. Then it shifted to hearing her out then leaving. But this changes things for him. A little girl that is a part of him, who will call him daddy. Yes, he was angry at Colina. He had every right to, but he still loved her, and she was carrying his child. He looked at the paper again. He knew the doctor that signed it and the hospital that he worked there. He went to more than a few family support groups there. It is true. Not only Colina would never lie about this, but the evidence speaks for itself. Mac was going to be a father. Colina saw the look of confusion and mistrust in his eyes. She began to cry, knowing this may be the last time they are in a room together if it doesn't concern their daughter. and it broke her heart. But she will do right by not just Mac, her husband, whom she still loved with all her heart, but her baby girl. She would sacrifice everything for them, no matter the pain she would endure. Mac, I see the look in your eye. I know you want nothing to do with me, and I don't blame you. All I ask is that you don't abandon our baby girl. Colina began to sob as she continued. Hate me all you want if you must. Just be there for her. Don't let her be me. I promise I will do whatever you want. God, I love you, Mac, and I want you in my life. But I understand if you never want to see me again, but Mac, just please. Colina was hugged and kissed passionately by Mac. She was shocked at first, but then returned the kiss with equal passion. Mac removed his list and spoke. Come home. I can't lie, you hurt me. And for a while I didn't want your back, yet I can't stop thinking about you. Know that if you ever hurt me again, that is it for us. For now, honey, are you ready to come home? She looked up to her husband. I will never hurt you or our family again, my love. I'm yours and only yours. Mac looked at the doctor. Do you take couple by any chance? The doctor smiled. I think I can manage that. The following months, both Mac and Colina began the journey that would rebuild their marriage. To say it was difficult was an understatement. The emotional barrage and reality were revised again. The graphic and painful details of Colina's affair, added with the trauma and loss of Mac's best friend during the war, and the cruelty of Carter took its toll. But despite every emotional session, despite every scream and shout of anger, Mac and Colina always left together. And if there were pieces broken away from either spirit, their spirits would be rebuilt stronger, and it just mean their love and devotion together grew stronger. In time, they were willing and able to tell each other's darkest secret. Colina shared how she felt such shame in being used by such a cruel man, and how she was terrified, how she thought Mac was going to kill Carter but destroy himself. Mac shared how he had Carter in his scope sights numerous times when he came back to town, yet something always kept him from pulling the trigger. They talked more about Colina's sexual abuse and how her guilt of what happened to her father inclined her to feel that she deserved the way Carter treated her. Yet they shared it all. When one cried, the other was there to wipe away the tears. Colina witnessed the toll she had committed, and she held herself accountable and put all her love in being to do right by Mac. Mac saw and felt this love, and after realizing the cruelty she endured, he swore to protect her and remind and show her how much he loves her in every way possible. The doctor then brought up the situation of sex and Carter. Both Mac and Colina were nervous about this, but with hands held, they listened to the doctor's words. Carter saw you both as prey that he hated, more so in what you represented, and he exploited it. Mac, he hated you for being a man of God with a beautiful woman, yet not a hypocrite. He saw you as perfection, but likely strong and righteous with complete genuine. Soothing he wished he himself could be. Colina, he saw the loving, faithful wife that one only sees in movies. A woman beautiful inside and outside. You both represented in his mind what he could never have. So, he sought to destroy it. What you two being here now has shown that despite his best effort, he has failed. These wounds are far from healed, mind you, but they are no longer gapping. The tool he used to do this is sex, and it is with you that will help you mend. Mac, he would mock you telling you how he defiled your wife. Mac felt slight anger begin to build, but listen. Colina, he used his dominating personality to mend you to you will, yet left you broken and discarded. Shame hit Colina as she listened to the doctor's words, but she stayed firm. Yet you both are still here, hand held together. I want to tell you how your love and bodies can now grow, and the lust for each other should feel no shame. Mac, correct me if I'm wrong, but doesn't the Bible say soothing about sex between husband and wife? I believe it is Genesis 2:25. And the man and his wife were both naked and were not ashamed. Mac smiled. Correct, Mac. The point is being naked means being vulnerable to each other. Mac, you are a wonderful lover to her, no question. But Colina, you must not be ashamed of you wanted the man you loved. You wasted something in you on one who could care less. It was good, yes, but like a narcotics addict, it left you lost and empty. Share that with the man you love so that you can be whole again, no matter how erotic. Mac, be her dominate man who will bend to her will, but then the husband who will soothe her body and bring her back from her ecstasy high, reminding her she is loved and protected. Colina, be his woman, his temple of pleasure and bills, but remind him that he also has your heart and you have his. Because unlike Carter, he will not discard you but love and honor you. No matter what happens when your bodies are one. Remember, so is your love and respect for each other. Soon after the session, their sex life together changed drastically. Colina no longer felt embarrassed to tell Mac the things she enjoyed. They did things such as restraint and role-playing, and they experienced a higher level of pleasure than they even know. And when it was over, it was looking into the eyes of the one they loved with all their being, as well as being satisfied. As time went on, both Colina and Mac were able to communicate in ways they never thought possible, and the love they had for each other not only returned but grew stronger than ever before. They recognized what Carter had tried to do, and their love and devotion for each other would not let him destroy their bond together. Months went by, and Colina was beginning to show her pregnancy. Her family were extremely supportive. Her father and mom would visit their home for dinners, and the love and warmth were extravagant. Benjamin beamed with love and pride when he saw his daughter happy with her husband and unborn child. He respected and loved Mac as his son-in-law, yet called him son without hesitation. Mac and Benjamin built a bond together out of respect and love. Both shared their personal experiences, and their respect and loyalty for each other grew. Mac and Colina faced the odds that almost destroyed them, and although it did not leave them unscathed, it did not destroy them. For with the respect, loyalty, and love they have for each other and future family, they could take on the world if need be, but they would always take it on together. It has been 4 months since Carter saw the woman cry about her daughter. More videos followed, as did a beating for each one. The last video cost Carter the ultimate insult, his ability to conceive. Carter, while restrained, was forced an vasectomy. Carter still remembers the pain of the procedure. He was jabbed with that syringe as if it were a dagger to his neck. The capsule was filled with the neurotoxins of a pufferfish. It completely paralyzed him, but he would feel every excoriating moment of pain. He thinks back as he couldn't even scream, just give a loud, constant grunting sound. But the pain of it all, the first cut, the removal, and to stitching back together, he felt it all. Not only to be traumatized from the pain, but the thought knowing that he had done so much wrong to so many. The idea of him having children could never be accepted. The scar was cleaned, and antibiotics were given to prevent infection. But nothing was done about the pain. And now, he waits in the medical room. Another healed scar on his perfectly muscled body. Yet now it has the physical scars to match his heart. He sits in the room, a broken man, thinking of all the lives he has destroyed as he is reminding of them by the scars he now has. Each scar a story of his cruelty and selfishness. Each scar a tale of lives destroyed by his pride. A tear falls, followed by another, until he eventually sobbing in his eyes. "Oh God, what have I done?" As if on cue, the big man in black suddenly enters the room and aims his gun. Wait. The gun fires the dart into his chest and Carter slumps to the ground. Carter then awoke on a park bench, the same suit he had on when he was first taken. The suit looked like it had been freshly cleaned. Carter noticed it was a little baggy with the amount of fat he lost. Muscle taken its place. While he was gathering his bearing, he saw 2 cops approach him. Immediately he ran to them. "Police. Oh, thank God. You have got to help me. This big guy in black suit tortured me for months. I was trying to get out, but he stuck me with a needle. He broke my arm and leg. He broke everything. He is a monster." The first officer spoke. "We'll take it easy, pal. Just take a breath." Carter was furious. "Take it east my butt. I'm telling you what happened to me, and your response is take it easy. Screw you flat-foot shithead. I'll show you easy." In a rage, Carter pushed the officer, which resulted in him being taken into custody. They ended up taking him to the hospital for possible injuries and for a psychological evaluation. Mac was in the delivery room, dressed in his usual attire except for wearing PPE as well. Colina had just given birth to a beautiful baby girl. Even though the birth was early, both mother and daughter were healthy. Mac could barely contain his tears when he held his daughter. He looked at the exhausted smile Colina had given him, tears falling off her face. "She is so beautiful, Colina. Thank you for bringing her to us. Thank God for this." He then gently kisses her. "I love you, Colina. I love you both with all my heart. I love you too, Mac. We both do with all of ours." The couple just basked in the moment. "We have to give her a name, you know?" Colina said. "How about Joan? Like Joan of Arc? I think this one is a fighter due to the fact she couldn't wait to get out. Not to mention she is on the stubborn side. She gets it from you just so we are aware." Mac laughed before he handed his daughter back to her mother and kissed them both. Wouldn't have it any other way. Colina's family was in the waiting area when Mac told them both mother and daughter were okay. Colina's mother Kate screamed and cried tears of joy of the news. Despite being in her early 50s, she was still beautiful with her fit 5 feet 4 inches lean figure, hugging and kissing Mac on his cheek. "Oh, thank God. My baby and granddaughter are okay. Benjamin shed a few tears and hugged Mac. Thank you, Mac. I love you, son. Take care of my baby and granddaughter for me. Mac looked at him with a determined yet reassuring look. I'll love with all my heart and protect them with my life. Megan just gave Mac a long hug. No words were said because there was no need for them. This past year was a roller coaster of emotions. The friends just looked at each other and gave a smile of thanks and love. At the celebration, Doctor approached Mac. Father McClanahan, I apologize for interrupting, but may I speak to you for a moment? Mac assured his family and nodded. When they were out of hearing shot, the doctor spoke. First, congratulations, Father Mac. Thank God you wife and daughter are alive. Mac smiled. Yes, indeed. I thank God for that. Thank you. Father, we recently have a patient in the mental ward. He claimed he was kidnapped and attacked for a year. He has no injuries. However, there is evidence that his body has suffered some trauma he recovered from. He is talking in a circle, yet he seems to be normal despite the claims he is making. I see you are in your attire already, and I'm only asking, could you talk to this patient until the mental health specialist arrives to keep him calm? Mac thought about it. His wife was asleep with the baby now, and the rest of the family was heading home. Mac could join his wife and daughter later. Sure, it shouldn't be a problem. Lead the way. When Mac arrived at the room, his blood ran cold. He did not expect to see this man. Last he heard, he was heading out of town to avoid getting killed a year ago. The man then saw Mac's face and had a mixture of shock and terror on his face. But then the man's face seemed to turn into a form of acceptance. I'll take it from here, nurse, thank you. Of course, Father Mac. When both the nurse and doctor left, Mac walked to Carter. But before he could say anything, Carter spoke. I understand. If you're going to kill me, I understand. With everything I have done, I don't blame you. Mac was surprised at the statement. The man he remembered was an arrogant, prideful man. He felt he was better than everyone else just for existing. This man was beaten and defeated. Despite it being a very strong though once upon a time, I think I'll pass. Mac then spoke in a hard yet slow voice. The things you have done to me, to my wife, I almost killed you for that. Why? Why such hate to someone that you never met? Mac was surprised when he saw tears fall from Carter's face. Because I'm a horrible excuse of a human being who cared about only himself. And if God was smart, he would just let me die before I destroy another life. Mac was taken aback by Carter's words as he cried in front of him. He then listened in awe of what Carter had been through this year. The torture, the abuse, and the videos. But when he got to the girl who unlived herself, he broke down completely. All the tears he held back due to pride and reluctance, he had finally let the tears and pain flow through him. And Mac did something he thought he would never do, held on to Carter to comfort him. Father, she was innocent. I broke her mother's heart by breaking her daughter first. Oh God, forgive me. Carter just cried and cried. Mac just looked at him. If I could take it back, I would. All the bad things I did to her, to you and your wife. Father, I'm so sorry for all of it. You didn't deserve it. I deserve your hate, Father. I deserve your curses. I even deserve your bullet. Eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth, right? I just wish she never did that to herself. She loved me, Father, and I just used her to hurt her mother. I never thought she would. Carter broke down before he continued. I don't want this anymore. I can't be like this anymore, Father. I can't ruin and destroy any more lives. Oh God, if you hear me, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for hurting your children like this, all of them. God, please forgive me. Max smiled. If we confess our sins, he is faithful and just to forgive us our sins and to cleanse us from all unrighteousness. Carter looked confused in his tears. Max spoke. John 1 verse 9, another of my favorites as well. Mac turned to walk out of the room, but then stopped at the door and turned back to Carter. I forgive you, Carter Harrison, for destroying my family, but know that God forgives you as well. May you find the peace you are looking for in his light. Before Mac could leave, Carter spoke up. Wait, Mac turned back towards him. Do you have a pen and paper? Mac provided him with both, and Carter wrote on the pad, giving it back to Mac. Call this number tomorrow morning. It is my lawyer. He will give you instructions on my behalf. Please know this is no trick. You can bring your own lawyer or even police if you don't like it. Just please call the number. It's the only good thing I've done in God knows how long. Mac took his advice and wished him good night before heading back upstairs with his family. The following day, Mac told Kalina what happened the other night. At first, she was worried that this may break them up again. But when Mac told her how Carter confessed to what he had done, and that Mac forgave him, her respect and love for Mac grew even more. This is why I love you, Mac. He told her that he was giving instructions, and he was going to find out what this was for, and called the number and was told to meet at an address. Mac brought his own lawyer with him, and they met at the local diner. Carter's lawyer seemed arrogant and smug, but also irritated for some reason. He looked at Mac. "I don't know what you said or did to my client, but I was told to give you these." The lawyer pulled out a few sheets of papers. "Have your lawyer read through them and sign them so we can be on our way." Mac did as instructed and signed the papers when his lawyer told him it was okay to do so. The three of them ended up at the Citibank and were taken to a large deposit box. In that box was a duffel bag filled with $2.5 million, all legal and tax-free. Mac looked at Carter's lawyer. "I don't understand. That makes two of us." "Look, Father, this is what my client, Carter Harrison, wants. And as his lawyer, I'm not paid to think when it is not the time to do so. Also, he wanted you to have this." He pulled an envelope from his jacket. It was a picture of a woman in her mid to late 30s. Her name and address and bank account number. The words, "Please make it right," written on the note, clipped to the photo. Across the country, Abby West was coming home from work. She took a breath and a short prayer before entering the home she found her daughter in. She was alone now, didn't have time for anyone. She was helping her parents as much as she could, but the bills were piling up. She decided to look at her account. Suddenly, there was a text with an unknown number that said, "I'm sorry," and then another text showing that she had just had $250,000 deposited in her bank account. She nearly fell on her floor when she saw and verified it. She just cried, saying, "Thank you, God. Thank you." In another state, a young teenager comes home from school with her uncle waiting for her. She wonders what's going on when the uncle tells her that they can now move to a better place, and that when she is 18, she will be given $180,000 to help her start her adult life with less of a load. Apparently, a lawyer came by and gave them the news by an unknown donor. All legality settled, no questions asked. She was speechless, but happy with her loving in-laws. She could finally move away from the place that took her parents and finally start over again. The next few months, the officially opening of the new orphanage campus that could house over 10,000 kids and young adult was open. It wasn't supposed to be open for another 7 months due to its lack of $500,000 in funds. But with $2 million, it was completed in half that time. The best teachers in the country, as well as guidance counselors from MAC other programs, could now be employees, and a positive change for the orphan children who would now live here. As Father Mac closed his speech with the following, "We would not be here today if not for the donations of a very caring individual. I admit I had my doubt of this person, but by seeing what they have done here today, I am reminded that God sees the true good and beauty in people, even when we don't. So, on behalf of everyone here, I say thank you." In the back of the applauding crowd, a lone man stood silent. He wore regular jeans and a long-sleeve shirt and black casual shoes. A smile hid his face as he walked away. He spoke to himself as he moved, "Finally did something right." Later that day, Mac and Kalina walked with their daughter to the park, where it all began. Their first meet, where they conceived Joan, and now back full circle to Joan's first day out. Mac looked at his wife as she stood beautifully in her yellow sundress, the wind lifting it just right above her calf. He sees the smile his daughter gives when he leans in to kiss her. He sees his family and just smiles. Kalina sees this and asks with a smile, "What is it?" She asked. Mac just holds her and brings his lips to hers. "Just that I love you both so much. And I'm just thankful I didn't lose this." He nudges to her and the baby. Kalina kisses him back. "That make two of us." She kisses him back. "We love you too, baby. We love you too." And Mac, for the first time in ages, enjoys the sunset and feels it joy and peace that had once left him. As he sits with his family, and the new possibilities and future memories of them play in his head. As his wife leans her head on his shoulder, and his daughter sleeps in the stroller, he says to himself, "Thank you, God, for the blessing you have bestowed upon me." Rebecca places the flowers on the grave of her late husband. She saw his engraved picture on the stone. It was the one where he was smiling at his high school graduation, and she had just said yet to marrying him. A tear fell, but her smile also showed. "Hey, handsome, just wanted to tell you that I'm sorry for everything. You didn't deserve that pain I gave you. I so wish I could hold you again. I would give anything for that chance. I'm also sorry for hurting myself, baby. I just wanted to be with you so much. I almost lost you twice after everything that happened. I just love and miss you so much. I promise I won't be so selfish this time. I will love our little angel for both of us." "Mommy, why you cry?" A little boy spoke as Mac carried her to the grave. "Just talking to Daddy, baby. You were born after he went to heaven, remember? When Alice attempted to end it, she nor anyone at the time knew she was a month pregnant. They were able to save both her and the baby due to Simon acting as fast as he did. When Brian Jr. was born, she had a test done immediately. When they said it was Brian's, she burst into tears of joy, thankful of the news. Immediately and truly began her journey to heal, not just for her, but now her son. The final gift her love Brian gave to her before he was gone. She now looked at her adorable son with a loving smile a mother could give. Oh, okay. Mommy? Grandpa? Will you tell me what Daddy was like? Simon and Rebecca shed tears. Absolutely. Rebecca's kissed her son's forehead as she answered, absolutely. Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments section below and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.